everyone that is watching this stream. This is Summit Esports. My name is Ferris. I am joined for today's cast by Claire. We have corporate budget cuts up against the Disco Spiders, that is, and their current records are Disco Spiders are at 2-0, corporate budget cuts at 0-2. Claire, welcome to the cast. I'm excited to cast with you. How are you feeling right now?
I'm great, actually. I'm very excited to watch this League of Legends, and I mean, hopefully we can see Disco Spiders play a close game and like maybe get their win. Not to be like biased or anything, but I'm cheering for them a little bit. Don't want to see a team go 0-3.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, you don't want to see total I don't want to say total failure. I don't want to be so pessimistic, but yeah, it'd be nice to see the underdogs pull out a victory here. And we're already into the draft. Our bans have been laid out before us and into the first pick. So on blue side, we have corporate budget cuts. Their B1 pick for themselves was Jarvan, and now Jarvan in the current state of League of Legends right now, a super strong champion, especially so with the Shojin changes. Goredrinker Shojin, a very powerful combination with J4, definitely a strong first pick. And then on R1, R2, we have Zeri and Ornn there for Disco Spiders.
I mean, just seeing those picks, I'm assuming that's gonna be Ornn top lane and Zeri ADC, obviously. Two very strong characters by themselves can definitely swing fights if they can get that far into the game. And looking into the second pick for college budget cuts, we have Malphite. Probably gonna be that top lane into Ornn is a pretty even lane, I would say.
Yeah, you have double tank up there in the top side. Definitely not something that we're going to spend too much of our time looking towards, at least in terms of the one versus one. At least for the side of Disco Spiders, they've really started to draft themselves a heavy scaling composition. Zeri is a champion that can really take over the later stages of the game if given the necessary resources. And also with a champion like Ornn, who will have access to the ornaments later on in the game past level 13 and upwards of level 18, this exempt or sort of amplifies the scaling of that team composition as well. So be on the lookout for Disco Spiders if they're able to make it to the later stages of the game. With this Zeri Ornn, they can be a force to be reckoned with in this game number one.
Looking at this mid lane, we found these picks come out, which will be the Cassiopeia and the Orianna. I mean, from my experience and from what I've seen, Cassiopeia is definitely pretty weak against Orianna, especially in this current meta where she's gotten so buffed. In that 13.18 patch, Orianna has become super duper strong, especially in solo queue and hopefully in this league play as well.
Yeah, and normally when you play the Cassiopeia, you typically like to, well, she's played in the mid lane, and mid lane hosts a lot of mages. But I think Cassiopeia excels the best in a lane where you can abuse your range advantage against the likes of a melee champion. And Orianna, with so much range as a mage, can definitely, it isn't susceptible to the pressure that Cassio applies. You know, you want to be as a Cassiopeia player, you want your opponents to be in melee range for petrifying gazes and miasmas and these types of things. But Orianna can stay at that long range and really mitigate the pressure that Cass is able to apply. So at least for the early game, Orianna should do at least have a smooth time in that lane phase, like you're mentioning here,
Yeah,
Claire, unless we see some jungle attention, perhaps.
100%. I mean, she can just sit back and poke. Looking back at the college budget cuts, we see a Tom Kench here. Looking at another pretty tanky champion, and I don't know about you, but over on this Jill Spider's side, uh, will they be able to deal with that? I'm not too sure. Zeri will obviously be able to do a bunch of damage herself, and Orianna, if she does get fed, that could be a lot of tank shredding with her as well. But three tanks is a little bit crazy. Can have a lot of like, uh, just gonna be able to survive in these team fights super well, especially with that Jarvan engage.
Yeah, it'll be tough to cut through the front line if you do start to fall behind as the Disco Spiders, especially so because you are a team at least looking towards the bot lane with the Zeri, who is generally weaker in the early game. If you are exploited and you start to fall behind, you can have a hard time dealing damage to champions like Malphite and Tom Kench and even Jarvan, who's going to be building this very bruiser styled healing focused build, and when you don't have access to a ton of damage, it can be hard to cut through this front line. But then again, given the resources, Zeri can be a threat to pretty much anyone in League of Legends if given those necessary resources. Orianna as well can set up massive damage with the Shockwave. And one disadvantage that comes from a heavy frontline oriented team is the lack of backline damage. So if the likes of a Twitch, which has just been locked in here on B5, if you lose that champion in a fight to an assassination or the Cassiopeia as well, your damage is being heavily hindered, and that can become a sort of a weakness for your team comp. So strengths in the front line, but they do, the corporate budget cuts team that is, have to focus on making sure that they keep that backline safe. Otherwise, that front line isn't protecting any damage, and that will be a definitive problem for them.
100%. This Switch definitely needs to stay alive, needs to stay a bit further back behind that front line, but being able to hop on Twitch with that Zeri, obviously, and that Nocturne will be very, very deadly.
Indeed, yeah. And I'll be interested to see how the bot lane plays out. So Milio on R5 for Disco Spiders, that's a fantastic scaling pick. The scaling is the name of the game for Disco Spiders. And I want to see if this Twitch Tahm Kench can exploit this weakness in the bot side in the early game. Now, Twitch is a champion that does scale very well, but also can snowball effectively if given an early game lead. The stealth is an excellent tool to run around the map, high movement speed, find assassination style kills. Tahm Kench can get very aggressive. I mean, the changes to that champion came a while ago, but now with that extra gap closer, sort of the swapped ultimate and E ability, you can get much more aggressive in the lane phase rather than focus solely on defense. So it'll be interesting to see if the Twitch Tahm can really exploit the weak bot lane, at least early on, that Disco Spiders have drafted. And if they can do so, can they translate that and snowball it further to make it so that this late game composition of Disco Spiders never reaches its true potential? That's maybe something I'm looking towards, at least from the bot lane choices from both of these teams this game.
I mean, what I'm starting to think about now for the Disco Spiders is their engage is pretty rough. I mean, it seems to be Nocturne, which isn't depends on the build path that Nocturne chooses to go, whether it is lethality or just playing to survive a little bit more, but not the tankiest of junglers in the game, but can definitely engage pretty well. But they also do have that Ornn, and that Ornn ult can be super deadly in team fights.
It can, and especially paired with the likes of a Shockwave from Orianna, it can be devastating. Now, like you mentioned, Claire, the Nocturne isn't necessarily the greatest frontline. The really only frontline champion that Disco Spiders have drafted is this Ornn. And if Ornn is cut through immediately, well, then there's no one else really to protect this backline of Orianna and Zeri. Milio provides the necessary utility, but when it comes to damage soak, the Ornn is the only one that's there. So it'll pretty much just come down to how well the Disco Spider squad can execute their initiations and make sure they're not staggered and there's enough people in front to protect the carries, as well as we're not going too far forward so that the carries can't quite get in range yet. And then you have issues with frontline dying before backline can get there. And that all just comes down to execution. And that you can really argue the game is an execution based game for pretty much any game of League of Legends. It's sort of like a
Yeah.
vague statement, but I digress.
Yeah, no, 100%. But looking with this, the corporate budget cuts, uh, if I was them, I'd feel a lot more confident with that Jarvan engaging or that Malphite. You could see, because they can get in and they can like survive. They don't immediately will get poked down, especially with that Jarvan. Looking at these Disco Spiders, they do have quite a few squishy targets. Like at that Orianna, that Zeri, and that Melio are all great targets for the Jarvan to jump into and like engage the fight. And he could for sure just like one shot them. The Disco Spiders are gonna need to be very, very careful and watch out for those engages.
Yeah, positioning will have to be a key thing to look for when it comes to Disco Spiders. You have a champion like Malphite whose engage is so reliable. It's a simple skill shot that's quite hard to miss. As long as your opponents don't have flash available, you're almost going to hit that ability every time, followed up with a Cataclysm from the Jarvan. And then I want to talk about Twitch too. So if they find lots of members knocked up or inside of the Cataclysm and they're grouped up heavily, Twitch is a champion that builds Runan's Hurricane, which gets that split damage onto multiple people and has lots of burst capabilities coming out of the stealth with that extra attack speed. This is a big potential for a massive wombo combo from the side of Corporate Budget Cuts. And I'm very excited to see how they team fight and if we can see these excellent wombo combos actually come through. It'll be quite the sight to see if we can see an unstoppable force into a Cataclysm, into a spray and pray from the Twitch. That could just be a beautiful sight to see.
101. Yeah, just so many combos on the side of the Corporate Budget Cuts. Like, just a lot of their abilities are just going to work super duper well together. We didn't even talk about really how Cassiopeia is involved in those. It's going to be involved in those team fights, but the fact that she has so much range and doesn't really need to be in the fight. I mean, she is in the fight, but she doesn't need to be super close. And like on top of everyone is going to be dealing a lot of damage.
All right, well, we are about to head into the spectator delay, which is something that as spectators we have to go through. So while we wait for that short 3-minute timer to go through, we're going to cut to a quick break. But when we come back, we'll be here for you with game number 1 between Disco Spiders and Corporate Budget Cuts. Do not go anywhere. Summit Esports stream of this best of 3 here today. If you're just joining us, my name is Ferris. I am joined by Claire on the cast today. We have Corporate Budget Cuts up against Disco Spiders. And Claire, I'm ready for a good game. How about you?
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm super
A
excited.
summoner has
And oh,
disconnected.
looking at this start of this game here, we're seeing um, Corporal Budget Cuts going straight to that bot side jungle as a team.
Yeah, and had a little bit of a pause there, which, yeah, I'm sure messes with the spectator a little bit. But yeah, that's going to be figured out, and it should fix itself quickly. But yeah, it looks like it's a group here down. We can see, at least from what's on our screen now on the mini map, they might disperse. The corporate budget cuts as now we
Welcome
get
to
back into
Summoner's Rift.
the game here. It looks like they are actually going to group up here as four in this bottom tri brush, looking for a potential kill here to start off the
30
game.
seconds until
And it
minions
doesn't look
spawn.
like the Disco Spiders here are going to get into any unfortunate position. It looks like a standard 5-point start, but we may see them move into the jungle here in the coming seconds.
Looking, potentially waiting for an invade. Playing as this team here, 5, still on this bot side river. Just walking up, seeing what they can get. Doesn't look like they're going to go for anything. But that's okay, they got some info, especially for
Minions have
the Disco
spawned.
Spiders. They definitely got a lot of info. As you can see, that Nocturne going up to the blue side, being able to put that ward down. That could be super crucial for just being able to tell exactly where this jungle is going to be.
Yeah, information is everything when you're playing League of Legends. And so knowing where your opposing jungler is going to be, especially playing as the jungle for your team, it's crucial information. It helps you stay safe in lane. It helps you to predict where your opposing jungler is going to go, set up counter ganks. Lots of information can be earned. And so with that ward that you pointed out, Claire, Disco Spiders are actually going to see that the Jarvan did start on the blue side of the map. And so it'll be interesting to see the pathing of these junglers in this game. They're starting on the same side of the map, but look at the pathing of this Jarvan. Could be going in for a level 2 gank or an invade here in towards the top side.
Yeah, no, 100%. As we can't quite see what's happening right now. Oh, we're back. But this Jarvan looking a little bit like he's wanting to
Looks
go
like
for something
X-Ray is
here.
going to be
He'll
engaged
put the
upon here. Giuseppe Hack is going to do a lot of damage onto the Ornn, so just being a little bit petty here in the level 2. Getting the quick level 2 off of the buff and then heading straight towards the top side and still remaining inside of this brush. And X-Ray, you're getting a bit too over-aggressive, my friend here. Will and definitely have to burn the flash, but I don't think a flash is going to matter, but gonna flash away from the EQ, but DV flashes forward with the Q on the Malphite, does not finish off the kill, and so flash trades here in the top side. It was the Jarvan holding the flash, trying to get that kill, but in the end, not so lucky. Ornn just escaped a sliver of HP.
Ornn being able to get out there like by the skin of his teeth, quite frankly. I mean, gonna definitely be punished for that, having to burn that TP just 2 minutes into the game. Just to try to stay in, get that CS, and not go down at an early level, because that Malphite will snowball if he's given that big of a lead.
Yeah, it'll be tough going down and as an Ornn in this early stage of the game. However, you aren't going to be pressured too heavily by a Malphite. It is a Comet Malphite, so the damage on the Q is amplified a little bit rather than the Grasp. But you know what? As Ornn, you're probably going to do okay inside of this lane. But nonetheless, yeah, a lot of action going down towards that top side. We see the Jarvan Giuseppe Hack down towards the Krug camp and Sultan on the other side at their Wolves. And we saw a little bit of an invade earlier, but now back to their respective sides of the map. Things could get tricky here on the spot side as we see an engage in the top, just some light trading. Yeah, like I said, things could get mixy on the bot side once these junglers path towards that area.
100%. As we saw earlier, that Ornn having to burn that CP, it totally deserves, like, seems that it's working as he's up levels and up CS. Looking at this Malphite as well, building Doran's first and with a Comet, could we potentially see an AP Malphite instead of going usually the tank, which is a little bit more consistent? But
I'm not sure if it's going to be the AP Malphite route. At least I wouldn't recommend that. But again, I'm not the one playing the game, that is. I think this will just be a Comet start with the Doran's Ring to really have yourself a strong start. Now, normally, at least from my analysis, I would like to do that more if I'm playing against a more exploitable top laner, like something ranged that doesn't have a lot of HP. It's easier to combat those champions when you do the comment on the Malphite, and in a melee versus melee matchup like this, I do prefer the grasp of the Undying because Ornn will have a pretty easy job of dealing with all that poke that comes their way. As now we see Yankton towards the mid lane. Here comes the Tahm Kench. Sunny Blue's going right in, and we see the shots going down from Cisco, putting so much damage into this Orianna. Plants and Poros on the Milio here to save the day, but the flash from the Orianna does have to be burned in the end, so I call that a win for Corporate Budget Cuts here in the mid lane. Nice roam from Sunny Blues on the Tahm Kench.
100%. Just that being able to find that time in that lane, being able to burn that flash is going to be so crucial. Especially on that Orianna, who doesn't have much movement ability outside that flash.
Yeah.
So
very immobile champion, but now right out of the pause, Giuseppe Hack has been caught out inside the jungle. Probably gonna have to burn the flash over the wall, and now that seems as if that's exactly what they are going to do. And not sure if there's any pursuit further, but it looks like Giuseppe Hack is going to be able to escape from this play unscathed, but the flash did have to be burned. Was hanging around the Raptor camp there. Not quite sure why, maybe looking for some counter jungling opportunities, but Plants and Poros there from the mid play. But now with the 2v1 in the bot side, Proton, Plat player, and Sunny Blues looking for the 2 versus 1 onto Space Murph, who is isolated down here because the Milio did roam up to the mid lane. But fortunately, you're playing Zeri, you are able to get over the wall there with your E ability, and going to be able to evade that 2 versus 1 play and keep themselves alive.
is Zeri having to play super passive in this lane right now as they don't have their support? Milio just returning here. Plants and Poros looking to deal some damage and make this lane a little bit more even, but looking at that Zeri is level 5, did get some solo XP, so might be a little bit more tanky than that Twitch and have a little bit more XP to potentially get 6 and could make a play.
Absolutely, but the thing is, the Milio will have a delayed level 6 while the Zeri does have an accelerated level 6. So it's a little bit of a trade off as we see more trading here in the top side. X-Ray now level 6, but getting to a dangerous level of HP. And I'm sure the Malphite EV now hitting level 6, so that threat of the Unstoppable Force into the potential solo kill could be in as we see Call of the Forge God now. It's actually the Ornn that wants to go for this, but the Unstoppable Force has dodged away from the CC. Searing Charge in, that knocks up the Malphite. I don't think X-Ray has the damage quite to finish off this Malphite, and underneath the turret, the safeguard and the safe haven for DV on this Malphite gets underneath that turret to safety, but lots of action going down in the top side as now we see some more trading here in mid, but Pyrosis on Orianna as we see Searing Charge gets the knock up onto DV, but I think he's okay with that. The flash away from X-Ray that's just come off of cooldown, and DV does not have access to his flash, but in the bush! Oh no, an excellent bush play from the Ornn, picks up first blood. That is perfect for Disco Spiders. It got so intense there in the 1v1 between the tanks. Not something you would usually expect, Claire, but yet we got to see it.
Yeah, usually that tank matchup is going to be, like, just hitting each other, just a grueling, like, top lane, with not a lot of action going on, but these players choosing to duel out just whenever they can. But looking at this river fight,
action, yeah.
we have 4 players here around this dragon, really wanting to secure that.
Yeah, it's going to be a fight for this objective, but now Lance and Poro is going to be engaged upon by Giuseppe Hack and having to burn the flash there away from the Flag and Dragon, so Milio will be not able to be using that summoner spell for the next 5 minutes. It will be without that. Right now it's the push here for Sunny Blues and Proton inside of the bot lane, but it's actually Soul Pen here for Disco Spiders starting up this Drake. Will there be a contest? It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case because Giuseppe Hack has completed the recall inside of the fountain. He does not feel, or at least both Regicas don't feel that they have enough to contest this Dragon, but now the Shockwave is in for Pyrosis. This is another solo kill in the mid lane. Now both solo laners here for Disco Spiders have claimed themselves a solo kill on the board. Excellent work from Pyrosis there, gets the 1v1 win against Cisco.
I think that Soul Pen has been doing this dragon for quite some time. I'm not sure if we saw, like, some gauge from the side of Corporate Budget Cuts, but going to be able to get this dragon finally, and looking to back to get some items. Dude does have that R up, so could do some pretty easy ganks on that mid and bot side. Curious to see what the Soul Pen decides to do here.
Yeah, he's got a lot of options available to them. When you're playing Nocturne, the champion that you want to gank has no flash. It's very easy to create successful ganks for yourself with the Paranoia because you can cover such a long distance with that ability. And so, yeah, Sultan now level 6. You don't really see a whole lot of action from Nocturne outside of early game skirmishes before that ult comes through, but now access to that ability. We'll see the Nocturne, hopefully at the very least for Disco Spiders, getting more involved on the map. But right now we see a small gold lead, 1.2k, which is quite significant for 9 minutes here for Disco Spiders. They also have that Cloud Drake in their grasp right now as well. So 1-0 in the Dragon department. So things are looking quite good for them right now. But it was the Rift Herald secured by Giuseppe Hack on the cross map, and so neutral objectives going the way of both teams in this game. It'll be interesting to see where the Jarvan uses this Rift Herald and if a play is made through that objective being placed down.
Fortunately, Jarvan doesn't have any laners that are winning lane, but could definitely use this Rift Herald to secure some gold, get them back into the game, get some plates down. If you look at that bot side river, you can see 3 control wards, just like so much vision in that river. I think it's been just had those control wards up for like 2 or 3 minutes now, so.
An engage here from Giuseppe Hack, flag and drag onto Pyrosis, who's been caught out clearing a ward inside of the opposing jungle. Tahm Kench going to get over the wall, but a nice blast cone hit knocks away the bot lane of Corporate Budget Cuts for the moment, but Pyrosis now locked inside of the Cataclysm, using the shockwave to buy themselves a little more time, but over the wall goes Sunny Blues, hits the tongue slash to slow down Pyrosis, and with the spray and pray, the Twitch will pick up the first kill for Corporate Budget Cuts, and that's a nice pick for this squad, catching the Orianna out while she's clearing away that vision that you were talking about, Claire, so littered in this river and jungle area from both of these sides, and it's the cause of a pick here for Corporate Budget Cuts.
Such a massive pick for Corporate Budget Cuts. They really needed something to get them back into the game, and a pick like that could definitely do something. Getting that mid control back and getting that plus 300 gold could be humongous, but with that pick coming down, we did see that Ornn go all the way to the bot side, so Malphite has been getting some value up there, getting some solo farm, which is super important and something that you really don't want to miss.
Exactly, yeah, experience is everything, especially when the scaling is quite solid for both of these teams. You know, those levels coming in are absolutely big for yourself. And what I want to talk about, as we actually see the Malphite moving into the mid lane here, Pyrosis, no flash available, flash ultimate up for DV, and here's Giuseppe Hack here, but the blinking HP bar is in goes DV onto the Orianna, who's flashless. I think Cisco and himself are going to be able to pick up that kill. Now the Paranoia onto the backline here. Cisco under attack from the Nocturne is the kill from X-Ray, who's teleported into the fight. Now Sunny Blues is the next target here for Disco Spiders, going to use that escape ability to try and close the gap here. But now the flash forward from Sultan on the Nocturne, but the shield does so well here. Proton Flathead with the spray and play, doing so much damage, but here's the lightning crash from Space Murph, trying to finish off the kills. So many low health bars from both teams, but in the end, I believe it's a 2-for-0 in favor of Disco Spiders, and an excellent play for them. It started off by the Malphite roaming down to the mid lane, and they get it done. Now 5-1 the kill score.
5-1 at 12 minutes is not something that Corporate Budget Cuts is going to be too happy with. I mean, obviously, you definitely don't want to keep dying, but 5-1 is quite, just quite super duper dominant, especially since that top lane is now 2-0, and then has finally finished their Sunfire, which will be super impactful, especially with that scaling.
Yeah, exactly. You want those levels onto your Ornn, that means ornaments will come in a lot sooner. You can now have Luden's Tempest completed for Pyrosis on the Orianna. 2 kills in their back pocket as well, as we see Giuseppe Hack dropping that Rift Herald down inside of the mid lane, going to get some plate money into their pockets as well as their mid laners. So remedying the gold deficit that they are suffering at the current moment, just a little bit, but still down 3,000 gold here at about the 13-minute mark is definitely not something that you're going to be happy with for this CDC squad. And it's going to be up to them to try and hunker down, not give any more skirmish wins over to their opponents, and try and find the picks that can start to bring themselves back into this game. If I'm looking at a way back in, I'm looking at this Twitch. Solid CS right now, 1-0, Kraken Slayer done. If you can get this champion online, they can definitely bring you back in it, as long as you can protect them and let them deal the damage that they need to do.
Looking now at the map here, as you can see these Disco Spiders having a bunch of people bot side wanting to get this Drake. This Drake fight could be super important, but I don't think that Corporate Budget Cuts is going to try and fight this. I just don't think they're strong enough, and I just want to see try and get their farm back up, get some CS and some gold, and build these items before they want to re-engage into a team fight.
Yeah, without the strength, yeah, exactly. The strength to contest that objective. You simply do not want to throw away your life for no reason, especially so when you're likely not going to win the fight anyways. If it's a soul fight, if it's the Baron, if it's an Elder Drake, sure. Even if you might lose, you got to go for it. These are game-ending neutral objectives. However, a instance of one dragon, only the second Drake there, or Disco Spiders, definitely don't want to contest that when you do not have the strength to do so. You would rather farm it up, like you said, Claire. You have the champions like the Cass and the Twitch that need that XP, need that gold. They need to get those items. But right now, they're feeling the pressure here. Zeri's having a free lane down here. 127 farm at 14 minutes, near 10 CS a minute. It's an excellent play there, or an excellent start for the Zeri. And Pyrosis here in the mid lane as well, doing very nicely. Now we see a play forward flash, petrifying gaze, does not land onto Pyrosis. The shockwave is in, but here's the unstoppable force from the Malphite. DV picks up that kill, and X-Ray's now caught between three members. They're tanking it for quite a long time. Now the Paranoia is in, but going to be swallowed up. The Cassiopeia is by the Tom 10. Sunny Blue's doing an excellent job to keep their mid laner safe. Flash, Bellows breath from X-Ray does not find those remaining kills. So low is the support mid from the side, for the side of Corporate Budget Cuts. Now Proton, Plat Player, and Space Murph. The 80 carries getting involved in the zap from downtown. Secures the kill onto the Cassio. Now Proton using the spray and pray to try and to get these Disco Spiders members away from the turret. And now we head into a pause, but we see more action inside of the mid lane here, but it still looks like Disco Spiders coming out on top in this play.
The Corporate Budget Cut finding that pick on that Orianna, thinking that they could get that pick and get out, but just having that Ornn in that fight just could prolong that fight for so long with how much HP and just how much damage he does. Just allowed for that Nocturne to be to make their way into that fight and for that bot lane to also join in. I just don't think the Corporate Budget Cuts were expecting that to happen.
Yeah, they're sort of entering a desperation mode where they're going for these plays that could seem risky on paper, but when you're so far behind, you really need to get things going here lest you just bleed out and end up losing anyways. And they end up using the majority of their strength to take out Pyrosis there, which they successfully did. However, in doing so, once you expend all your initiation resources, you then are overextended, and then Disco Spiders are perfectly set up there to punish the play, which is exactly what they did, pushing CDC right back to their turret and picking up a few kills along the way. I especially liked that snipe that Space Murph on the Zeri got with the zap there, taking out the Cassiopeia, who had just narrowly escaped the fight, but not for long as that snipe was in. That's the first kill of the game for the Zeri. Definitely something Disco Spiders are going to be happy about.
Yeah, getting that Zeri unlocked, especially like 15 minutes into the game, can really take over team fights. Just does so much damage, especially with that. Hasn't quite built an item that's going to be super crazy for team fights. Building that Static Shiv going to be super good, especially for farming in that bot wave. And it kind of looked like she's just been left there without being challenged by anyone. Twitch and her were both down there, but it seems that they didn't really want to engage or fight. Just wanted to each do their own thing, get some farm, get pretty strong. But as you can see, it's 2-6. It really matters what the rest of your team is doing on the rest of the map if you're just gonna sit and farm.
Yeah, exactly. It's been smooth sailing for this Zeri thus far, with quite literally no contention in the game by pretty much anybody. I could say the only play that CDC has made onto the Zeri was that 2 versus 1 attempt that Proton, Plat Player, and Sunny Blues made when the Milio moved up to the mid lane, but it was easy to escape. When you're playing Zeri, you can skip over that wall and get over to safety. But now heading in towards this mid game, we're 15 minutes in. This is where, if you're the team in the lead, so in this case Disco Spiders 4,000 gold ahead, you really want to start to blow the gold lead out of proportion. You want to start to run away with the game, crush your opponents while you have the chance. And you can see the movement here from X-Ray and Soulpan. They're heading up towards this Rift Herald. Maybe they're just going to clear the Rift Scuttler, or they're going to reset inside of a brush, but I do think they need to look towards that objective, start to knock down the remaining outer turrets in the top and the bot lane, as well as the mid lane. Actually, first turret yet to be claimed in this game, and then work towards those tier 2s, which are worth a ton of gold. And then once that is all secured, you should have yourself around a 7 to 10,000 gold lead, and this is how you can really blow the game wide open and start to run away with it.
Especially since Corporal Budget Cuts they have bounties on the map, so getting that Rift Herald off the map, especially since it has a bounty, would be huge. You don't want to give them any extra gold back into this game. You want to continue to punish their lanes, push their lanes, make sure they don't get any towers or kills. It seems that right now, X-Ray is the only person with a bounty. That might change here soon, whether we see in these next couple minutes as you might see that Nocturne get a bounty or that Zeri get a bounty, just because they're so much further ahead than their laners or their other jungler or that other ADC.
Yeah. And normally, or maybe not normally, but sometimes you see one player very much so ahead of their opponent rather than the rest. And you have, let's say, a 4-0 Nocturne. Then they start to build up a 400, 500 gold bounty. But I would say the gold is quite evenly distributed amongst the Disco Spiders members quite nicely. And so they're able to sort of avoid a heavy bounty being placed on their players' heads because of this, despite having the roughly 3,500, 4,000 gold lead. And so that's not a bad situation for them. So if one person does misstep, it doesn't give 1,000 gold over to someone like the Twitch, and then right back into the game is CDC. But yeah, they should look towards knocking down these turrets, which then not only gives them some gold, but also opens up the map for them to make more plays. If you knock down the outer and inner turrets, then you have access, or at least easier access, to your opponent's jungle. You can deny vision, makes it more difficult for them to contest the neutral objectives, like the Baron at 20 minutes, like the future dragons, as the Disco Spiders are nearing a soul point contest and then later a soul itself contention. And that will make the game very rough for CDC. So these are things to look for as you are Disco Spiders heading into this mid game as well.
Disco's all right. Seems that we have some technical issues with a player. Unfortunately, Sunny Blues having a little bit of a difficulty connecting to the game, which is all good. We're going to be waiting a little bit for that, and hopefully we'll get right back into the game and see if they can bring this one back.
Yeah, well, exactly. It happens in competitive games. Your PC stops working. You, I don't know, kick your computer or something. Not that Sunny Blues has done that, but this is things that happen when you're playing online games. And very soon, hopefully, they will be able to get back into the game and finish this one off. And we've talked a lot about how far ahead this Disco Spiders team is and what their keys to success are, but we can start talking about CDC and what they need to do to get back into this game and stop the snowball from the side of CDC. So I'm looking more towards this Twitch, which is looking like a saving grace here, potentially still has not died, sitting at 1-0. If they're able to play through this Twitch, slow the game down, get them some farm, Proton Plat player gets 2 to 3 items, then this can be something that absolutely brings the CDC squad back into the game.
What would be massive is if the CDC team can, get these turrets or these objectives like those dragons or that Rift Herald. That could be pretty massive. Unfortunately, Jarvan did use their Rift Herald a little bit early into the game, and I don't think if he did, I think it would be run out by this time. But if CDC could get these towers, that would be pretty massive. That'd be a bunch of gold, depending on how many people get them. Especially if that Twitch could get it. I think if this Twitch could, get a couple more items here, a couple more, some more gold, they could really do a lot of damage into this team fight. I mean, they can poke straight through that Zeri, straight through that Orianna, and that Nocturne, and that Melio for that fact. Just that Ornn could be a pretty big challenge for that Twitch. But everyone else seems to be super duper easy targets.
Yeah, and that's the advantage of playing against a squishy team is that you can, even when behind, catch some of these players off guard and start to mount yourself a comeback if you're able to exploit their mispositions correctly. And also the Cassiopeia can side lane quite effectively as well, and so knocking down these turrets here, which have objective bounties, will definitely be something that the CDC players should look towards when talking about a comeback. Cassiopeia can side lane quite well. She's a champion similar to the likes of Ryze, who is nicely built for the side lane, excellent in a 1v1 scenario, a little bit behind against their counterpart in the Orianna Pyrosis, doing quite well for themselves. They're sitting at about even CS, but the 2 kills in favor of the Orianna definitely going to favor them, at least in the stats department, but the outplays could potentially be in for the Cassio. So if they can start to win out in that side lane, could definitely be something that they can see to start to mount their comeback there in this game. Just looking at more avenues back in the game for CDC. Sure thing. So as we sort out this pause, and we'll get it back momentarily, we're going to head to a quick break, but we'll be back here with the continuation of game number 1. Stay tuned. And we are back, I believe. Yes, we are. Into the game we go. Welcome back, everyone. This is game number one between Corporate Budget Cuts and Disco Spiders. I'm Ferris, players joining me on the broadcast. We have the Rift Herald being taken here by the Disco Spiders, like we talked about earlier, Claire.
Yeah, taking that Rift Herald, getting that bounty off the map would be super important, especially just wanting to halt, you know, corporate budget cuts as much as they can. We do see that Twitch in that bot lane looking to do some damage. Hopefully, you know, get a turret, but that Orianna will be there to stop any attempt at that.
Yeah, and it'll be tough to get access to that side lane when you are an AD carry that's playing on a team that's very far behind. You can be exploited so easily if a collapse comes through from Disco Spiders. And right now, the Zeri inside of the mid lane. Twitch still staying in the bot lane in the 1v1 against the Ori. I would probably prefer, if I was CDC, to put that Twitch in the mid lane for extra added safety, since that mid lane tower, I mean, all towers are still up. But I like the idea of the Cassio in the side lane up against the Orianna a little bit better, but you know, they can do what they'd like. But right now this area is unmatched in the mid lane. Things are looking really good, but for the side of Disco Spiders, I would look to try and take down more of these towers, but with the Rift Herald in their hands, I think they're going to be successful in doing so.
Richard has looking for a play there, having this Malphite TP in, looking to deal a lot of damage. Does not quite find anything though. You're gonna want to hate to see that, especially with the flash burned. Look at that Ornn in that top lane too. Looking to get that tower.
Yep, it might actually be first tower. Not too sure how healthy it is, or if Ornn is close to knocking it down. X-Ray is very close. Here comes Cisco here for the defense, but I think the Ornn's just going to tank up any damage that the Cassiopeia dishes out. First turret of the game finally goes to Disco Spiders, 17 minutes in, and yeah, the teleport came through from the Malphite, but unfortunately no play was to be had, so that summoner spell going to waste a little bit there, and then more advantages go towards the Ornn in that 1v1 in the top side. You can see 115 farm to 83, plus the 2 kills on top of that, and if we want to go one step further, the extra gold they've received from that first turret bonus is going to be essential here for this Ornn, building a massive gold lead here on the top side.
The top side is just going to get harder and harder to control for this corporate budget cuts. Just going to be able to push out that wave so far if they wish. Not going to want to do that though, because it does get a little bit harder to farm for the Disco Spiders if they keep pushing it farther and farther.
But we see a play here onto the Cassiopeia. Soulpan getting aggressive. The Petrifying Gaze does land, but you're in no man's land. No flash available. That is a dead snake, and now it could be the Rock in trouble as well, but going to be able to walk this one off. No flash available, but the brunt of the damage for the side of the Disco Spiders has been expended. They get themselves a kill there in the mid lane. Some poor nothing there from Cisco. The mid lane turret was vulnerable, and it was the Disco Spiders that decided to sink in their fangs on that play and get themselves a kill plus the turret.
It seems the Disco Spiders are going to be trying their best to set up this bot side, as we're going to see this dragon come up here very soon in this next minute or so. But unfortunately, just so much pressure that this Orianna is putting on this top side that they just need to have someone over here. And it's their Malphite. Their Malphite not doing a bunch of damage, but still such a key component into these fights.
Yeah, but when you are delegated to the side lane to hold the Orianna, you definitely aren't in a spot that you want to be as that Malphite. And that's another great strategy here for Disco Spiders, is to stretch the forces of CDC thin so that they can't group up for that excellent team fighting position that they have for themselves. They can't really get the full value from it because they are stuck holding these side lanes. And look at Pyrosis here just bullying the hell out of the Malphite, but in he goes with the Unstoppable Force. Proton Plat Player coming out of the stealth, an excellent flash shockwave finds the Twitch, but unfortunately it's not enough to deal enough damage to take out that champion, and that's kill number 2 going over to this Twitch here. CDC, their AD carry, is doing quite well for themselves now, 2-0, working towards that second item. I would say that that's pretty much the last hope here for this squad, and they're nicely able to punish the side lane there. Pyrosis goes down.
That's just such a large kill for that Twitch. Just definitely the person you would want to see that kill go to, but I'm not entirely sure how much that Twitch is going to be able to make happen with it. As you look at their jungle, just look how many wards are in this blue side jungle. Just so much vision for Disco Spiders and corporate budget cuts having to match that vision in their own jungle, which is not something that you're gonna want to see if you're them.
Yeah, exactly. When you have to contest for vision in your own jungle, and it feels like stepping into your own jungle is a massive danger, it's always a rough feeling. And so it makes it that much harder for the CDC squad to make plays, as now we could see a potential play here onto Giuseppe Hack, who's trying to peacefully clear away their Gromp, but in goes the Paranoia. Gonna have to flash over the wall away from the Shockwave that Pyrosis did commit to the play. So 2 ultimates down here for the side of Disco Spiders. Gonna have to await those to come off of cooldown for the next fight. Do they start up the Baron here? They are ahead, but I'm not sure if they're so far ahead where they can just outright force a Baron in the face of their opponents. And this is going to be now back to a stalemate, but X-Ray doing work in that side.
Getting that tier 2 turret in that bot lane is just so rough. As you can see, X-Ray still does have their TP, so they're just going to continue to split push this side, as Disco Spiders might just start up this Baron. You can just see them hovering around it. You have that Orianna right above them. They are going to start up this Baron. Just a lot of value potentially being had. Okay,
Yep.
never mind. They lied.
I think they're waiting. They're trying to bait them into a fight is what they're trying to do, but they need to be careful because they don't want to let the Baron poke down their HP bars. The fight's going to get started off here. Unstoppable Force lands onto the Zeri. The flash away from Plants and follows, who's going to buff up her team with shields. DV trying to flash away, but flashes right back into the Nocturne, who frontline so well for their team. And now Space Murph unleashing on their opponents. Proton Flat Player trying to get away from the Zeri, but the ultimate keeps resetting. It's a double kill. The movement speed from the Zeri is enough to chase down their foes, and with 2 dead, they turn back towards this Baron. The Jarvan has reset, and this is a little bit of an unfortunate situation because that means there's no smite here for the Steel. Proton Flat Players on the opposite side of the map. This looks like it's going to be Baron in the hands of Disco Spiders.
I think this Baron is just going to be even more detrimental for this side of the because that is not what you want to see either. Getting that kill in your own jungle. I mean, that is just...
Yeah, you just got caught with your pants down inside of the jungle trying to clear away that red buff, and X-Ray just, it's like taking candy from a baby. Yeah. You see a 1 HP ADC, unknown about your position, and you just capitalize on that opportunity for sure.
Yeah, backing by X-Ray buying this Jack show, as you can see, X-Ray just... It's looking a lot... Quite a top diff here. I won't lie. Just an entire item above Malphite, or DV4 on that Malphite is not what you want to see if you are a corporate budget guy. Just playing from so far behind, almost 10k gold at about 9, but it's going to be so easy for the Disco Spiders to expand this lead. Now that they do have this Baron and they can push these waves in and get these towers super duper easily. A good thing is their only tier 2 tower is up in that mid lane, is the one that they're going to be going for, but I don't know if it'll be alive for too much longer.
No, certainly not with this Baron push coming in for the side of Disco Spiders. And with this push, we'll see how much they can get from this Baron power play that they have set up for themselves. It's this 4-man strong defense here hovering around inside of the wings for CDC. And I think Jarvan might actually just be AFK. I think Giuseppe Hack's just been sitting here inside of the fountain for a while. So a bit of a, another obstacle added on top of their already unfortunate gold situation. I think Eevee's going to look for the Hail Mary play, Unstoppable Force onto the Zeri, but that's simply not enough. Lightning Crash going to rip right through the Malphite's health bar in with the Paranoia. Goes Soul Pan to call the Forge God to follow it up. Proton Cloud Player doing their best, but the Shockwave just eviscerates him. Triple kill for Space Murph on the Zeri as well. Player, I think this is going to be all that she wrote. 30 seconds are the death timers here, but the problem for Disco Spiders is they don't really have a wave. They do have one in bot though. Maybe they end through there.
Looks like it's coming. Looks like this Nocturne just wants to fall back, get that dragon, but I guess that Disco Spiders are waiting for that wave. Necessary being a bit proactive, going for that bot wave, just to get some more of that inhib in that tower. I'm not too sure if they'll be able to end.
Doesn't seem like it.
Corporal budget cuts are right about now, but being a man down in a 4v5 is definitely just more challenges.
Yeah, an insurmountable challenge, really.
Yeah, it is not looking so good.
Yeah, we can't even really talk much about how the CDC can come back in this game, because quite literally you would need, with 4 players, a perfect 5-person Malphite ultimate into a 5-person Petrifying Gaze with a Twitch who is spraying and praying onto multiple members. But now we see the engage here in the top side. We've seen this play before. This time Pyrosis, flash over the wall. Also the soul, the Ocean Soul that is, was acquired in the previous play from Sultan on that Nocturne. So the healing, the passive healing and the ability healing is going to be so crucial. It's just another advantage in the back pockets of Disco Spiders. They are quite literally unstoppable.
For an engage here. Yeah.
Call the 4-shot Paranoia follow up, and I think that's going to be a massive shockwave that takes down the Malphite now. 5 versus 3, the siege will continue.
And looking at that mid wave is going to be pushing into their base. That Ornn does have that TP if they do choose to TP into that base, but it seems that everyone's just going to be backing, try to defend these Nexus towers, and just try their best to last for as long as possible.
And as long as possible, probably lose the next 2 minutes, not even.
If that.
Yeah, exactly.
It went from a really slow burn to a forest fire in a matter of moments.
Yes, the Canadian wildfires, just absolutely unstoppable. Nothing you can really do to stop it. It's, yeah, impending doom is what CDC is facing. The push is in. Just gonna wait for these waves to come through, and I think they'll have what it takes to complete this final push.
Disco Spiders getting that triple inhib, really just making it, trying to get all the objectives they can while they're on the map, and while keeping all of theirs.
Yeah, this has actually almost been a perfect game here. Unstoppable Force Space Smurf perfectly flashes away. That's the Malphite counterplay that you want to see. Now with the Lightning Crash doing so much damage, immediately takes out the Rock. The Tahm Kench trying to peel for his carries, but their carries do not do any damage in the first place. That's the last Nexus to fall. The Nexus soon to follow as well. And that's game number 1 being secured here for Disco Spiders. Excellent job from them.
In quite dominant fashion. After that dominant, like, what a win from the Disco Spiders there. Just really showing up, showing like why they came to play, and like, just, I don't know if they're looking that good. I don't know if they'll ever drop a map.
They could just take the next game, but we will have to find that out, and that will be revealed to us as we get into game 2. But for now, we will cut to a quick break. But when we return, game 2 will be on the horizon for you. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back to you with that game. the red side of the map. Maybe it was just a side thing, Claire. Maybe that's their bad side, and this
It
is their good side, and they pull off a miracle here as Ornn is the first pick on B1.
it might have just been Ornn. Coming back up for the Disco Spiders, we saw how valuable Ornn was in that last game, and hopefully they find that same success, or maybe Corporate Project Cuts will find the key to success to shutting that Ornn down. I'm not sure what they talked about over that break, but it might have just involved that top lane.
Well, it seems there was two top lane bans that were attributed by the Disco Spiders towards CDC, and that was the Mordekaiser and the Shen. Now, Mordekaiser is a champion, does very well into the Ornn. Not so sure about Shen. I'm sure it's fine, but perhaps these are just the champions that they're targeting towards DV, making sure that they get a good top lane matchup for their top laner in X-Ray. But it looks like as for the response here for corporate budget cuts, it's going to be that Jax. Now, this top lane matchup is Jax favorite towards the later end of the game, but Ornn with high base damage can still give the Jax hell in the lane phase. So we could still see, or there is still a possibility of a repeat from last game happening once again.
Yeah, that Jax and that Ornn both scale, I mean, incredibly well. Some of the best top laners to scale in the entire game. But looking at this bot lane now, we see both the support and that ADC coming up from Disco Spiders with that Zyra and that Ashe. When I think of strong ADCs, my mind doesn't necessarily come to Ashe, but I mean, who knows what will happen?
Yeah, it has lots of range, and so up against the likes of Braum, it can be very effective at the very least because Braum is, of course, a melee champion and wants to get right in your face if Braum is aggressing onto you. Nocturne will be a better combatant into the Ashe because the paranoia can get you into melee range with a click of a button, but I really do like the Zyra pick. I think Zyra is absolutely broken right now as an AD carry player myself. I hate playing against this champion. She does very well into champions like Braum, Alistair, Rel, these melee champions that have a hard time of getting in range of her. She roots them, does lots of magic damage, knocks them up, provides great peel, does tons of damage. I think Zyra is going to get a ton of value in this game, so I really like this pick here for Disco Spiders. But now we head into the second round of bans. It is going to be the Lilia taken away from by CDC and the Lissandra as a response as the B4 ban here for Disco Spiders.
Yeah, looking to see what Disco Spiders are going to ban. Looking at that Orianna, Corporate Regicut's coming out with a ban on that Skarner. Haven't seen a Skarner in quite some time, but you never know.
Well, you're not going to see it this game.
Not quite. Disco Spider's kind of a pretty crazy pocket Skarner pick, but I'm not quite sure. Looking
Yeah.
at on the side of the corporate budget cuts now, looking at this ADC in that mid lane, going to pick that Ezreal,
Yeah,
which
Ezreal has good range to combat the Ashe at the very least when we're on the topic of range. Now with the Braum, it's not the everyday pairing that you see because it's a little bit more difficult to stack that Braum passive when you rely more on skill shots rather than quick auto attacks. But it can still work. And like I said, Ezreal a little bit safer into Zyra won't find too much trouble with the plants and the roots and all that when you have such long range. And then on B4 here for Disco Spiders, Udyr is going to be the lock in. I'm assuming that is obviously going to go into the jungle. So this is more frontline being established here for this squad. Ornn and Udyr, and I mean Udyr is a champion with very flexible build paths. So you could go a damage route, you could go for a more bruiser, tankier style route. I would like to see the tanky route because then you have a nice solidified front line. And we'll see what they pick here in the last few seconds on B5. And it's going to be Disco Spiders this time, taking that Cassiopeia into the mid lane. And now their entire comp has been completed. They look like quite the tough opponents here in their team composition for game number 2.
yeah, that Disco Spider is completing just a very balanced composition, I would say. Just they kind of a little bit of everything into this comp. I mean, there's people that are going to be scaling, just some tanky players for some peel and that range at that Ashe, which can do a lot of damage. They also do have quite a bit of CC, so that is something that Corporate Budget Cut is going to be needing to think about.
And with the last pick on R5, we have the Twisted Fate. So pay attention as a spectator to the CDC Global Power. They have the Destiny and the Paranoia available, so we'll see if they can get crazy with those cross map plays and see if they can build advantages that way. But that's going to do it for the draft. We have all the champions locked away. We're ready for game number 2. We head into spectator break and we'll be back with the game when that concludes. Don't go anywhere. Game coming up right after this.
All right, and
And
welcome to this second game of the series. We have corporate budget cuts and Disco Spiders starting to get into this game number 2.
yeah, I'm ready for game number 2. We have some new dynamics in this game, some new champions. I like to see the Zyra is an interesting one. I'll be paying a lot of attention to Plants and Pearls on that champion. A little bit of a different pace compared to when they were piloting that Milio, going for more of a aggressive champion and going to like to see how well it pairs up against the Braum. We see Twisted Fate and the Nocturne being in the hands of the new substitute for the side of CDC that we haven't talked about yet. They do have a sub. Chinez is going to be piloting the Nocturne this time instead of Soulpan. There's double globals on the side of Disco Spiders, so post 6, they could start to become a massive threat around the map.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Disco Spiders drafting this composition that I wouldn't normally think about. Seeing this Twisted Fate for the first time in quite some time. Wanting to see what that is going to bring to the table.
Yeah, it's a champion that is aimed to enable your team, and so really you don't have on this composition champions that really super excel with excessive resources being funneled into them. I mean, every champion wants lots of gold, but Ezreal starting Cull isn't necessarily the greatest bot lane pick to get Twisted Fate attention. So maybe they focus more towards the top side. Maybe a 3-0, 4-0 Jax is definitely something that could propel you further in this game. So it'll be interesting to see where that Twisted Fate decides to move around the map.
Yeah, potentially giving this Jack or funneling this Jack with a bunch of resources could be super duper deadly. Looking at the targets of the Jacks that like could probably one shot or like close to one shot like half of the Disco Spiders, so just a super duper not like snowball because Jax also scales, but just a champion that can do a lot.
Yeah, Jack of all trades champion, a Jax of all trades champion, if you will. Okay, I'm sorry. Won't be doing any more of that. Yeah, he can. He can snowball games just like your early game oriented champions, like for example Pantheon or something, and also scales into Oblivion. Jax can be a nightmare of a champ, so not a bad strategy here for CDC if they do end up going for that play. We do see sort of the change up in pace in the top lane as we actually see the Udyr making their way into the bot lane here. Sunny Blues is a little bit out of position. That's going to be the route that does land, but Plants and Pearls getting down dangerously low. And Proton Plat player with the Arcane Shift going to get to safety. So things already starting to get mixy here in that bot side. As DV trying to get the push there in the top lane, but you can already see, Claire, how OP that Ornn base damage is.
That Ornn is just like a wall, like a brick wall that no one can get past. But he also hurts you. It's like a brick wall with spikes on it.
Yeah, barbed wire or something.
Yeah, so that Jax is gonna have a pretty challenging early game, I would say. Especially, I don't think we'll see any solo kills, but I mean, you also never know.
We said the same thing about the Malphite and the Ornn last game.
That is true. There was a lot of commotion in the top lane.
Yes, they get active up there. What can I say? As we see Miasma from Pyrosis landing down, and also the phase rush. Cisco's in a little bit of trouble. Gold card will land and will get them out of dodge, but the Cassiopeia starting to take over in that mid lane, at least at that instance. Is Sunny Blues now gonna get the root? Yeah, Nocturne getting aggressive here in the bot lane. This could potentially be First Blood Spacemer forced to flash away, and thankfully getting away with a sliver of HP. That's a pretty good start there in the bot side, getting some summoner spells, both cleanse and flash there down for
that was
Disco Spider's bot.
Just super close, but not able to close out any of those kills. Again, in this mid lane, it looks quite like Pyrosis is just controlling and like making sure this lane is exactly how they want, as they're up on CS, and it seems that they just have more control. The wave isn't quite in the greatest position for just straight up farming from Pyrosis, but gonna be able to push that or shove that into that tower, so looks like we're gonna see it back from them, get some items, and potentially deal some more damage to this Twisted Fate.
There's like so many low health bars across multiple lanes. It's like Right as we panned over to the bot side there, we saw a flash from Cassio onto the TF, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's things going on all over the place. Jax is almost getting solo killed by Ornn, so it's almost like tension's building up like a volcano ready to burst open. So maybe keep your eyes on these neutral objectives like this first Mountain Drake, and come 8 minutes, that first Rift Herald, things could get busy here, and teams can really start to, get this game started here in the kill department.
As we see, this dragon just gone up. It doesn't look like any junglers are gonna try and get onto that dragon just quite yet. It seems that we're all just chilling for the time being, but if you look into that red topside jungle, you can see these deep wards that Sultan got into there. So that could be super duper helpful in figuring out where that Nocturne is and like what the position is, and potentially get some objectives off of that.
Yep, knowing your enemy jungler's positioning definitely going to be crucial, especially when you have a tight-knit game like this thus far. I mean, only 6 minutes into the game, but, things can always happen very early on when you have a very close game. Junglers really influence the pace of the game, as we see an aggressive Searing Charge from X-Ray, and now the Counter-Strike from PV4. They're getting very aggressive up here, as we see a Call of the Forge out here from X-Ray. Grandmasters might also pop here from the Jackson. X-Ray getting the empowered Auto Bellows Breath flash forward from both of them, and now it just becomes the chase. Do they have the range? The leap strike towards the ward, but you pace backwards. Now the slow is down with the Q, trying to get the final autos there. Now the Destiny comes through. First blood secured from X-Ray with the Bellows Breath. Can Cisco trade this kill back? I do believe the Twisted Fate is going to be able to do so. The no flash on the Ornn. Cisco definitely going to be able to finish this one off. It's a 1-for-1, but it's the extra 400 first blood gold going in favor of Disco Spiders and their top laner.
If you look into this jungle, this Udyr is playing super duper aggressive. Not gonna quite be able to get that stun on that Nocturne, but just a lot of pressure as we're seeing this Udyr. It likes to play super aggressive, likes to go for a lot of these invades and just try to make things happen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Udyr can be a champion that can be very oppressive with the movement speed and just the rundown nature of this champion. And what I mean by that is it's a champion that, well, will run you down and will just continue to run straight at you until you die. Champions are like Olaf, for example, are similar to it, and Udyr can become such a menace in this game if given the resources. And speaking of resources, we have the first Drake of the game, which looks like is going to be taken by Disco Spiders, uncontested. And also I want to point out, Claire, that's a Blasting Wand in the inventory of Udyr. That's interesting.
It's going to be an AP Udyr. Not entirely sure. It could be a Luden's, but I'm not too sure. I've not seen a lot of a Luden's Udyr, but you never know.
Yeah, maybe showing the world a brand new build. I mean, I've seen AP Udyr before, but then again, in solo queue, I haven't seen much of Udyr at all, let alone the AP version. As we see inside of the mid lane, Paranoia from Chinez going to go down onto Pyrosis, who gets locked up by the stun, but an excellent Petrifying Gaze locks up 3. The Ignite from Sunny Blues. Wow, that was close. Down to 1 HP goes the Cassiopeia, but now we see the Rift Herald in the meantime was started. X-Ray tanking up for their jungler here, as now Sultan finds the stun. The Fear going to land onto this Udyr, and they go forward, but Chinez is dropping so low, and that's going to be the kill going over to Sultan on the Udyr, but in goes DB with the Jax counter-strike, stuns up the Udyr and picks up that kill. The Unbreakable blocks the Call of the Forge God, but X-Ray has the damage to trade that kill back. DB trying to finish off this next kill, going to be able to do so with the W. It's a double kill for Jax, but it ends up being a 2-for-2. I believe Chinez drops, Sunny Blues drops. All around this Rift Herald, like I mentioned earlier, things are getting absolutely crazy here for both of these teams.
Yeah, just so quickly, just the game has evolved into just a bloodbath. I mean, getting this Rift Herald is going to be super massive, especially in just pressuring these lanes. Zyra trying to make sure that that Twisted Fate does not back, but with that empowered recall, he's just going to get it off.
Gonna get out of dodge, and that is the Rift Herald going into the hands of corporate budget cuts, and the Twisted Fate will have access to that ability. 63 CS to 86 inside of this mid lane. The Cassiopeia feeling very good. I was very impressed with Pyrosis' escape in that gank. It seemed as if the snake was all done and doomed, but an excellent Petrifying Gaze finds 3, able to escape, unable to participate in that river fight because of it, but still 2 kills did go over to CDC, so that was quite good for them, and plus the Rift Herald as well. So a nice play, and they're really starting to fight in this game, much better than how last game was going at this point in time.
Yeah, it looks like in this bot lane, looks like we had a lane swap from this bot lane and this mid lane. It seems that you just want this Cassiopeia to just farm as much as they can, get as strong as they can, and
oh my goodness, Flash Petrifying Gaze. Pyrosis trying to flex their muscles here. Sunny Boost does a great job with the Unbreakable to block a lot of that damage that Pyrosis was trying to deal. Now Chinez gets active here inside of the lane. True Shot Barrage going to chip away at this Cassiopeia. This could potentially be a 1 versus 3. Is the Fear going to come through? Yes, it is, and the Braum stun. Chinez just escapes with a sliver of HP. An impressive attempt here from the Disco Spiders mid laner, almost completes the 1 versus 3. I was just about to say how powerful they can be, level 9 to level 6, or what was a level 6 Ezreal at the time. Really scary snake at the current moment, but fortunately they get the kill.
that's a massive shutdown, especially on that Cassiopeia, who was looking kind of unstoppable. Like, yeah, they got pretty low, but they just could not die. But just being able to shut down, it did take 3 people, which is not ideal, but a shutdown is a shutdown nonetheless.
Oh, that was a pixel perfect cleanse from Space Smurf. I just want to point that out. Soulpan walking towards his opponents as we see the Zyra ultimate come through. Enchanted Crystal Arrow lands onto the Nocturne, is now locked up, forced to flash away over the wall. The flash forward from DV finds a double counter strike, and that's going to seal the fate of Space Smurf there. And their support and jungler running for their lives back towards the turret, but in comes the Ornn with the Call of the Forge God. It's going to rampage through. I don't think it found any knockups there. X-Ray gonna flash right forward with the Searing Charge, but then the stun is in here. Now 4 versus 1, but gets 1 kill with the Bellows Breath. Can they get out? Now down to about half HP. Chinez finding the fear here, and now Proton Plat player getting involved with this one. Chinez gonna run away with 1% HP, and now Destiny going to be popped here. Twisted Fate's gonna be able to flank these two, I think. But no, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Now completing the teleport, they just needed to get in range, maybe? And that's actually just going to be it. Oh my goodness! No, it's not. Mystic Shot finds the kill onto the Zyra. 7-4 is the kill score. Claire, this whole game is getting very crazy very fast.
This game is just stumbled into kills left and right. I mean, it seems that CDC just, looking at last game, they were playing pretty passive. They were playing like they wanted to, you know, react to what Disco Spiders was doing. But this game, they're just trying to fight and any chance they get. They're looking at picks, they're trying to get kills. And we might see another one here soon as this break does come up here.
This first Drake of the game secured for Disco Spiders, and this would be Drake number 1 for CDC, so the Drake score would be 1-1 with the secure of this objective. It looks like it's going to be the case here up towards the Raptors. It looks like Space Smurf is just going to commit inside of the mid lane for the push. And like you said, Claire, yeah, this time around Disco Spiders are doing an excellent job of fighting as a team, utilizing the heavy presence that they have all over the map with their long-range ultimates in the Destiny and the Paranoia to get more players involved across the map. I also want to commend DV for also getting very involved in these plays as well. They are down a little bit of farm here, 22, and now X-Ray getting lots of solo plates is going to be a little bit of a problem in the gold department, but nonetheless being a pivotal part here in the fights for the side of corporate budget cuts in this game.
I would add that X-Ray is up 1 level. It was 2 levels at a time there, but DV4 going back to that top lane, gonna try to get some more farm, get back into this game, hopefully get to even level with Udyr. I mean Ornn. My apologies, not Udyr. But looking pretty cool. I mean, the scoreline does say 4-7, but for the kills, but the Disco Spiders have 800 more gold. So that is something to keep on the lookout. And I think
that is probably from the CS advantages that they have.
I could only assume, especially with that, I think most of that gold has got to be on that Ornn.
Yeah, 3 kills, those plates that X-Ray was getting as well. It's a 35 CS lead for the Cass, and a 14 CS lead here for the Ashe. So definitely going to be a contributing factor to their small gold advantage despite being down so heavily in kills. That's a 200 gold bounty on top of the head of Proton Plat player on this Ezreal. Playing 2 good games here. Last time around was deathless until the very end despite the rough start, and now this time around also being an excellent driving force in the success that CBC has been able to find, and just commending that nice performance here in both games. Don't want to cast or curse them, as we see Plants and Poros lurking inside of that brush, trying to find an opportunity here for themselves and Pyrosis to make a play. But at the moment, we see another stalemate.
Yeah, just the game, you could just see going through so many phases. Right now, the game is just a little bit more mellow. Team's not quite wanting to fight, not going for any picks. That probably is because the objectives on the map is just the Rift Herald, so there isn't much to fight over right now. But it does seem that Disco Spiders are going to try to get this Rift Herald, going to start it up. We have Junez there on that Nocturne. Can definitely smite steal, but does have a much weaker smite. Can be much harder.
Yeah, it's tough when you don't have your whole team around there. The setup wasn't really right, and so you could Paranoia in for the steal, but it's second Rift Herald. It's not really worth it. It's not as valuable as the first when plates are alive, and that extra bit of gold is on the line. So giving that one away to Disco Spider is not necessarily the worst situation for yourself if you are CVC, and they're happy to give that one up. They had multiple members grouped up and down towards the bot side. I want to point out how well this Cassio is farming Pyrosis, almost at 10 CS a minute here in the 1v1 up against Proton Plat player in the side lane. But here comes the Paranoia, here comes the Destiny, gonna flash into the Alco, but I don't think that's going to do anything. I think it's just going to delay the inevitable. Pyrosis drops once again. The Ezreal gets the kill credit for this, and then back to the mid lane goes Cisco. It's an excellent usage of the globals, and this was something that I mentioned at the start of the game could be very pivotal here for the side of CBC, and that's exactly what is the case right now.
Yeah, just using these ults like in tandem, which is just super duper well and well put together, but it is taking so many people.
Yeah, and now it's actually the Ezreal that's locked up here. The shutdown goes over to that Udyr, but in goes DV for the trade, and X-Ray teleported behind with the Call of the Torch. Was able to find a ton of damage. Sunny Blues and Shenez are going to run towards their towers, licking their wounds. It's a 1-for-1, but the shutdown gold of the Ezreal goes into the hands of this Udyr, who's been quietly farming it up. 116 farm, doing quite nicely for themselves. DV looking for a play here onto Soulpan. Counter-Strike is in, finds the stun. Can they find the rest of the damage? Soulpan running away, but now Cisco joining the play too, and this is X-Ray out of position now, forced into a 3 versus 1, but does the Udyr join back into the fight to help out his top lane? I don't think it's a wise choice. Can the trade kill be found by X-Ray trying to finish off Sunny Blues on this Braum? Not going to be the case. It's another kill going over to this Jax. Divine Sunderer complete, and we see back and forth skirmishes. It's been like no team fights, only odd man skirmishes here in this game, and it's been quite the spectacle to watch here today, Claire.
Yeah, I mean, just so much combat, so much like brawling here in these lanes, especially on the side of the corporate. My goodness.
Corporate budget cuts.
Yeah, my apologies. But they are just playing super duper well together, and as you can see, another engage from this Nocturne.
Yeah,
getting so much free range, especially with these R's. I mean, as long as they're on vision, it's incredibly simple.
Yeah,
and
it's as simple as a button click.
Yeah, especially that Zyra, who is all alone in that wave, that river, just trying to make something happen, but could not do so.
Now we see Petrifying Gaze land onto 3. That's a nice disengage there from Pyrosis. Do they want to pursue this fight anymore? Sultan is frontlining. Here's the Enchanted Crystal Arrow going to be flashed away from by Cisco, and the Spell Shield from Shenez stops that arrow from getting any value here in the fight. It's the second Drake of the game here for CVC. That Infernal Drake going into their back pocket. It was an excellent pick to start off the play onto Plants and Poros on the Zyra. That Paranoia, like we were talking about, Claire, just so effective at catching out these out-of-position squishy targets like that Zyra, and they do an excellent job of utilizing that to their advantage. But here comes the siege down onto the mid lane turret. I don't think that CVC has the firepower to stop this from going down. That's going to be first turret, I believe, or second turret of the game here for Disco Spiders, and in the game as well. So right now in the objective department, they're winning out, at least in terms of structures.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Disco Spiders, like, they might look. I mean, the game seems to be pretty even. The goal
We're gonna
difference is
see a
about
1v1.
200, but I mean, this 1v1 is definitely
Yeah,
gonna go in there.
Destiny gonna come down. Gold card lands onto the Casio, but that Twisted Fate doesn't do a lot of damage. If there's no follow-up there, definitely going to be in trouble. The stun card going to land once again. I think that's going to be enough for Cisco to escape that situation. They tried to make a play onto the Casio on the side, and you can already start to see the problem that she is becoming. No kills to her name, but 182 farm, and all that solo XP that Pyrosis has claimed for themselves inside of the side lane makes for one scary Snake Lady. Look at that Medusa level threat right now inside of the Lick side lane, but Pyrosis just has to be careful that they're not getting picked off here in multiple or getting collapsed on, and that time able to escape from potential danger, and at least for the side of Disco Spiders, hopefully able to avoid that more in the future as well.
Yeah, this Cassiopeia on this side lane is just gonna be so prominent, especially against this TF. If that's the character that they choose, the CBC um, to like max this Cassiopeia in that side lane, he can't really do too much. He's just got a bunch of utility, like especially with that Everfrost and those cards, but the damage is just you're gonna slowly get those turrets taken and that like CS taken, which is a little bit unfortunate. But seeing that TF in those team fights could be incredibly impactful.
Yeah, and I think this is actually how the Disco Spiders, as we see a teleport coming in here, and DV is being engaged upon, finds the counter strike onto two plants, and Boros in a lot of danger, but the Searing Charge able to provide a lot of kill for now. Call the Forge God comes in, trying to keep this Zyra alive. Don't think it's going to be able to do so, because on the flank is Proton Plat Player, who picks up that kill, and now the Udyr are aggressing forward. The Zhonya's going to keep themselves safe for the moment, and Nocturne going to finish off that kill. It's a disaster here for the side of CBC. Twisted Fate going to live with 1 HP. Cisco, that's a great job done there to stay alive, and now 3 for 0 in the fight. This is definitely going to mean the Baron going to go into the hands of Disco Spiders. Things are looking really good for them 21 minutes into this game.
Yeah, getting this Baron especially will be super duper impactful, as they don't have a lot of firepower like alone as in singular characters. They're probably their best character would be that Jax in that side lane, but especially getting that Baron, it'll help a lot. It'll help with making sure the lanes are a little bit more even and getting those split pushing opportunities.
Yeah, and right before that play happened, I was going to mention how, because we were talking about the Casio and how strong that she is, and this Orin as well has, at least before the Baron went down, a 2-level lead on the Jax. I think the solo lanes are the strong point for the side of Disco Spiders, and as we actually see a blast going over here from Pyrosis, Cisco does not have flash to their name, but here comes the teleport. I think Cisco's just going to get out with the Destiny, and unfortunately they did have to commit the Unleashed teleport there on DV on this Jax, as we see Arcane shift forward onto Space Murph, not going to find any kills. But basically, before we see any other action, I'm going to get this out before it happens. TLDR, I think Disco Pirates just need to split push to win this game. Enchanted Crystal Arrow not quite going to land. Now Soulpan getting aggressive here inside of the front line. Paranoia from Chinez gets so aggressive onto the Zyra, and that's going to be enough to take him down. The Ashe to follow soon as well. The Twisted Fate once again with 1 HP is going to escape the fight. 3 for 0, but now Pyrosis trying to get involved, but DV is here on the flank, finds the stun. The Ghost, I believe, has been popped. Flash forward from DV to try and continue this play. No poison onto the Jax means it's going to be harder for Pyrosis to deal damage to lead forward. They're kiting so well now underneath the turret. Jax has misplayed. That's going to be the kill going forward. Now they're going to continue going for this side, but I don't know if they're going to be able to pull this one off. Pyrosis is popping the hell off in this game despite losing so many members. Such a driving force here for Disco Spiders.
Just seeing this Cassiopeia work is just quite incredible, quite frankly. Just so much heal, so much hiding of the abilities, just to be able to get out and get safe, especially with having no movement abilities and that flash being burned. But you could just see how impactful this Cassiopeia is to how the outcome of those team fights. If she's not there, I mean, Disco Spiders are in such a world of hurt.
That's exactly right. Every single time, pretty much, Cassio's never been there. She's either been late to the fight or she hasn't been there at all. And the Zyra Ashe right now are, I mean, they're 2 items. Like the Ashe is 2 items, but they're pretty useless in comparison to their opponents. They don't do any damage. They get immediately deleted by the Nocturne Engage plus a gold card. And they need that Cassiopeia there if they want to contest these fights. So now this time around, she's here. The Paranoia comes through. Destiny as well. The Drake has been secured. There's so much damage already going down here from the Cassio, and the Call of the Forge God on the flank. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Bring in this Cassio, and you have what you need to win these fights. The Drake did go in favor of CBC, but 3 kills go over to Disco Spiders. They got what they needed finally, and utilizing their strengths to win out in this fight.
Yeah, that fight finally going over to the side of the Disco Spiders. I mean, you could see the obvious difference of that fight is that the Cassiopeia was there and present in the fight instead of splitting side lane or just somewhere else on the map, which is just such like night and day for the side of Disco Spiders and being how that fight is going to be won. Is if you can see like the side of CBC, you like there's just they have a lot of utility, but like if the side of Disco Spiders burn that utility, then they pretty much have nothing. They have no way of winning that fight, especially on that character of the Twisted Fate. Once he uses his abilities, pretty much kind of useless in that fight.
Yeah, now we see they're a bit caught out here inside of the jungle. I think they've overstayed their welcome now. Pyrosis locked up in multiple members' melee range. The shutdown going to go to the Jax. This is not what you want to do here, Disco Spiders. You can't be caught out like this because now you have no Cassio. Now it's pretty much open season on the map as, oh my goodness, Cisco almost dropping to that makeshift Anivia ult from the Udyr. Yeah, exactly. There's still a lot of standing gold here on the members of CBC, the 400 gold bounty on the Twisted Fate, 300 gold on the Ezreal. Look for that if you are a Disco Spiders fan or a Disco Spiders player. If you get that, especially so on CBC members like Cass or the Ashe, who is pretty behind in this game and would need a lot of gold like that to catch up and then become a threat, this is still something that you can attack and find value in this game.
Yeah, a lot of gold on the map. Not quite like the objective bounties, but the bounties on the characters are worth more if not just as much. If you look at the side of the Disco Spiders, you can see a lot of AP damage, which I mean, coming from that Cassiopeia, that Udyr, and a little bit of that Ornn and that Zyra. So the CBC have decided to build, obviously, Boots of Tenacity to get that magic resistance, to make sure they don't deal quite as much damage, but being able to block damage is pretty crucial.
It's too bad that they don't have, that the CBC doesn't have more of a frontline champion, more of a tank, like a Sion or something, or an Ornn. Because you're right, Claire, there's so much AP damage on this Disco Pirates, what am I saying? Disco Spiders squad. And if you have someone that's stacking magic resist, it's going to be so difficult for you to penetrate through that frontline champion. So they don't have a whole lot of magic resist builds here as we see an engage go down onto the bot lane. That's a bit isolated from the rest of the team. It's going to be the Ashe clicks the focus, the stun's going to come down, and that's going to be the first kill of the fight. Make that first 2 kills as now Soulpen trying to run for their life, but Photon Flat Player is on the pursuit, and now locked up in the middle of everybody is the Cassiopeia, who lands a nice 3-person petrifying gaze, but it's not going to be enough. It was Space Murph and Plants and Poros caught out there inside of the mid lane, and you know, CBC, they sink in their fangs and they feel like that's their time to pull the trigger, and they do so effectively. Now Baron is on the cards for them.
Yeah, looking to get this Baron, just getting a lot of damage dealt here. This Twisted Fate just toying with this Ornn, not really making him be able to do too much, just continuing a CC chain with that Everfrost and those cards. But this Ornn is, I feel like this is their way back into this game. Again, they've just taken, the CBC has just taken so many good fights where the Disco Spiders have been out of position or just not have had their entire team. So, I mean, great stuff from them.
Yeah, they're playing so well with their team composition is the CBC squad, and what I really want to see from the side of Disco Spiders to come back is to stop pushing so far into these lanes so that you give free value for the Nocturnal and the Twisted Fate ult to punish you where you have nowhere to retreat to. Stay underneath your turret, let them push you in so that they're forced to try and siege and dive onto you. And then if they do that, then you actually have somewhere to run to because you're already inside of your base. Then the Cassio can play backline and isn't getting flanked from multiple directions. This is definitely something that you should look for. But the fight's going to break out here inside of the middle of the river once again, so it's going to be chaotic as ever. As actually, we see a teleport here from the Jax, but it's going to be canceled there by Soulpan. That would have been an excellent point of pressure there for the corporate budget cuts if they were able to get that one off. But right now, I think the Destiny did come through from Cisco into the mid lane, so they are pressuring that mid lane inhibitor, and I think they're successfully going to be able to take it. But Pyrosis does recall, but this is dangerous because now you have no Cassio, and look at DB going right in with the 4-man stun, and Shinez with the follow-up. It's immediately the bot lane gone. Call of the Forge God doesn't even land. Right now, Proton Plat player under fire, but the Arcane Shift going to get them out of dodge, and the Udyr not able to finish off this kill. That's 3 dead. I think that was such a misplay. Why would you send your Cassiopeia back? That's your strongest member. Soul is taken. Fight is won. Baron in the hands of the corporate budget cuts. X-Ray nowhere to turn. I think this is going to be, I mean, it's not necessarily the nail in the coffin yet, but things are looking really dire.
For that dragon fight, it looked a little bit more winnable, but they have just taken such brutal fights on the side of Disco Spiders. They just have not been able to find too much value in these fights. And like the way, like the game is just gonna continue and like snowball into these like team fights, but if they're gonna keep playing them like this, it's just gonna make the game so much harder than it has to be. Especially since that TF got that mid inhibitor.
Yeah, we're going to see a engage here onto Pyrosis, but that's a little bit of a blunder. The shutdown was found, but that's the Cassio did, and after that happens, there's no one left for CBC to contest these guys. The Ashe and the Zyra are way too weak. The pick ends up working out, trading your Twisted Fate's life for their Cassios, basically one cog in your working wheel of machines versus their entire lifeline is definitely going to be a worth trade. I think the game might just end right here, right now. It's 30 seconds on the Cassio, but they're not grouped up strong inside of this mid lane. Gonna take down that tier 2 turret in the top side. Is DV on this Jax, 600 gold into their back pocket. The gold lead starting to balloon here. Things looking really grim for the side of Disco Spiders. They need a miracle to come back in this game, and I think it's only a matter of time before the final nail in the coffin is put into the casket here for CBC.
Yeah, just gonna need to make something magic happen here on the side of Disco Spiders. That the Elder Dragon will be coming up here at some point, but they would need to win that fight and then some, I think, if they want to close this one out.
Yeah, and that's something that I was going to bring up is pretty much the only Hail Mary play that they have is an Elder Dragon steal. Let's say by some miracle it is corporate budget cuts that go for the flip onto that objective, and then a Smite steal is in for Soulpan, and then, you know, Pyrosis finds an insane Petrifying Gaze, followed up by a nice Call of the Forge God with Elder, and they get an ace and then just push mid and end. I mean, that's a lot of ifs in that situation that I just drew up there, but you see it happen quite often in League of Legends around the Elder Drake when the game, it looks like it's going to go in one team's favor, and then one blunder around that buff. It's so powerful. It can turn the tide of a game in pretty much an instant. So that's pretty much the last hope that Disco Spiders have in this game. And so looking towards that will be my next play if I am them. And if I am corporate budget cuts, I'm looking to fight before that Elder Drake happens so that there's no chance of a steal, or just end the game outright before it goes down, as now we see a stun. I think that was an Enchanted Crystal Arrow landing onto Cisco here on the Twisted Fate. Gonna have to flash away from the Call of the Forge God, and now pops the Destiny. Maybe they look for a counterplay. I don't think that's going to be the case. Just going to teleport over to the mid lane, and they will continue the siege there.
These Disco Spiders looking, Pyrosis just looking so far into that mid lane. I mean, it's not too far, but with that Nocturne and that Twisted Fate, you can get jumped on just so quickly. You just gotta be so careful. I mean,
yeah, you can see it's like stepping up like a quarter into your mid lane, you're already down to 0 health.
Yeah, that is just so brutal. These Disco Spiders just trying to survive, make sure none of their other inhibs get taken, or these towers, but this Jackson is bot lane doing a lot of damage.
Yep, going to continue the side lane pressure. That Jax is now approaching 4 items, not quite there just yet, but definitely not something to be trifled with. Level 17. It's the full late game power of the Jax that we're watching on display here in the side lane. I think the only person that can contest the might of this Jax is the Cassiopeia, who is also level 17. The Baron buff now going to be started. I think this is where the game is going to end, or where the comeback begins here for the side of Corporate Budget Cuts. The Call of the Forge God was blocked by Sunny Blues with the Unbreakable, but now stunned up by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Is he going to die? It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. The flash away. Look at the side lanes here. It's the Twisted Fate and the Jax pressuring these lanes while it's 5 versus 3 around the Baron, but fortunately CBC has expertly evaded them away from that odd man fight. And now they're losing their base because of this. Sisqo working towards that mid inhibitor now, while the rest of CBC or the rest of Disco Spiders try and answer these pushes. CBC go right back onto the Baron here. And this is where a fight is going to break out. DB4 getting aggressive. Grandmaster's might. Here comes Pyrosis with the Petrifying Gaze. Soulpan trying to get aggressive. They find that first kill. Can they find the second one? I think they're going to be able to do so. Into Stasis goes the Nocturne. And now Proton Platfire trying to get the 1 versus 1 down onto the Cassiopeia. And here is Sisqo on the backside to finish that one off. I think Baron's going to go in their hands. The game won't end yet. Holy moly, fights on multiple fronts, Claire. It's hard to keep up.
Fights all across the map, and it's looking at this game might just end. I mean, this Jax is dead, but they do have this Baron buff and waves pushing into their the Disco Spider's base. It just kind of looks like a matter of time before the CBC turns a team fight and makes this game over.
Well, fortunately for the side of Disco Spiders, they didn't lose an inhibitor. That's, you know, quite the miraculous feat. I'm not quite sure how that didn't happen, but that means that it's an easier time for them to contest the Elder Dragon when that spawns very soon. Right now, it's CBC with priority on this, and they're just going to start it right up. There's no one even remotely close to contest this right now, and they actually might just burn this down before anyone from the side of Disco Spiders can really get involved here. But nice root from Plants and Poros lands onto Sisqo. Does have to be a little bit careful here. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow is going to go right through him, but the Elder Drake has been secured, and here comes the Cavalry. Shenez getting right into the fight, trying to eat through these tanks, but actually not going to be able to do so even with that Elder buff. And now Pyrosis joins the fight. That's going to be the shutdown onto this Nocturne. But now into the fight goes DB4, Leap Strike forward, trying to get onto Pyrosis. Guardian Angel in hand and running straight forward. Infertile Drake, Elder Drake. There is 3 dead for the Disco Spiders. I don't think they have anything left in the tank. Pyrosis needs an absolute miracle to finish this one off. I simply don't think it's going to be enough to defend these Nexus towers.
Disco Spiders just doesn't have enough in the tank. They just don't have enough damage to be able to chip through all of the CBC. Just trying their best to clear this wave and to make sure that their towers no longer get any damage towards them, but I mean, CBC coming through and destroying all 3 inhibitors is just not something that you would want to see if you're the Disco Spiders.
Yeah, so they don't end the game, but triple inhib, this is going to be the game over likely on the next push. It's very difficult to defend 6 super minions at a time barreling down towards your base, let alone an enemy team with Elder buff for the next few moments, and they are that much far ahead. They are 13,000 gold in the lead. They have, well, they don't have a Baron right now, but I don't really think they need one. 6 super minions per wave is going to be way too much to hold. And I think once the group comes in for the side of CBC, I think the game is going to end right here. There's really no options for the side of Disco Spiders anymore. They've kind of run out of everything.
Disco Spiders is trying their best to hold on, looking to see if they can get a pick of just if someone happens to step up way too far on the side of CBC, but I don't think it really matters as Nocturne and Twisted Fate can just jump right in and Jax can be right behind them. And it looks like this game is coming to an end here as these minions are pushing into these towers.
It's the last stand for the Disco Spiders. Their first Nexus tower has so swiftly fallen. Second one about to drop as well. Look at the super minions just flying right into the base. They have to try and focus their damage on the champions and the minions as well, as Ingo's DP finds the counter strike onto Extra, who's trying to tank up as best as possible. The Jax goes into the Guardian Angel as that's the Elder drop popped, and the Nexus explodes before the fight actually really starts to break off. That's how quickly things can end. And that is going to do it for game number 2. We're going to head to a game 3 because with the substitute in and their confidence regained, that is a corporate budget cuts victory. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with game number 3 for you, and we'll settle this best of 3 between both of these teams coming up next. And welcome back, everyone, to the broadcast of corporate budget cuts up against the Disco Spiders here. This series now 1-1 here, Summit Esports broadcast of this best of 3, and we're headed into game number 3, already right into the draft. My name is Sparris. I'm joined here by Claire for this final game, and things have been quite exciting. We had a pretty big stomp in game number 1. That was Disco Spiders claiming that game, and then they bounced right back, collected, maintained their composure, collected themselves, and brought it back there for a game 2 victory. And now, Claire, we're headed into game 3. Are you excited? Are you ready for it? What's going to go down?
I mean, I'm stoked for game 3, really. Like, corporate budget cuts really just showing back up in that second game. So they did have their ups and downs in that first game with just a bunch of issues and tech issues that were not related to League of Legends at all. But being able to show up with that sub in that game too is incredibly resilient, and to show them like that they want to win. So
Exactly. And they may have momentum going into the game 3. And let's start talking about these picks here because we already are almost halfway through the draft already. We have Disco Spiders now playing the Vayne this time around and the Lilia. So these are two very exciting champions that I am ready to see. On the other side, we have like full pro play composition coming through from CBC. We got Oren Sedge, an excellent front line there to protect the Zeri, and great scaling for them as well. this is sort of the top bot duo that Disco Spiders went for in game number one. So we got scaling. We also have scaling with the Vayne as well. The Lilia does nicely too. I think this is a fantastic pick into two of the tanks.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at this composition here for the corporate budget cuts, I mean, they have great engage, they have great kiting, and they have great damage with that Zeri. So being able to just cover all of their bases, and they still have two picks left with that support and that mid laner. So I'm curious to see what they do. Disco Spiders opting to ban that Orianna, understandable as she is super strong at the moment. And then that final ban of the corporate budget cuts banning that Malphite, which is also understandable as Disco Spiders does not yet have a crazy engage. So Malphite is definitely one of those champs that can engage super duper well.
Yes, exactly. That unstoppable force is quite literally an unstoppable force at most moments of the game. I like the two bans from Disco Spiders mitigating these two control mages in the Lissandra and the Oriana, things that could lock down their Lilia and their Vayne very easily. These are two champions with high mobility, great self peel, and they do excellent into tanks. I also think this Urgot pick against the Ornn is turbo. Like I'm loving this draft right now for Disco Spiders. Their red side counter draft is perfect. I don't know if they're picking these champions to counter what corporate budget cuts is went for on blue side, or if they're just like coincidentally picking what they like and it counters it. But I really like this draft. But the Casio going to go over to CBC. This has had presence in all three games now and has looked quite strong for the majority of the series. And so this is a power pick being secured from CBC. I think we're in, Claire, for a banger game number three.
Yeah, I completely agree. And looking at this, the Disco Spiders players' last like win rates, it seems, in like play rates, it seems that Disco Spiders is opting for a bunch of comfort picks. They just want to play characters that they're comfortable with. They don't want to do anything crazy, but like obviously these characters will still do a lot of damage and can do a lot of combinations together. So I'm curious what they see in that mid pick to close this draft out.
Yeah, so they're hovering the Silas here. This would actually be quite another interesting pick in the sense that Silas does well here because he has fantastic ultimates to heist away. So pretty much any ultimate here is good. Taric ult, fantastic. Like making pretty much your entire team invulnerable. Cass ult can be good. Zeri ult can be good. Sedge and Ornalt can set up these fights. There's lots of options here for this Silas and can keep these ultimates on a constant rotation. I think their matchups in terms of their lanes are good. But if we look at the side of CBC, they have fantastic scaling. If they can escape maybe the early stages of the game and start to build themselves a lead and team fight the way they did last game so nicely, they punished the over aggression and the mispositioning from Disco Spiders well. If they do the exact same thing this game, especially with a composition like this that's so tight knitted in terms of a 5v5, they should be all set and ready for a game three win.
Yeah, just corporate budget cuts, in my opinion, choosing a much more like well-rounded composition of characters, while Disco Spiders choosing champs that are much more like comfort picks, obviously, and just looking to play their game much more like kind of off meta.
Yeah, and sometimes comfort off meta, that's what brings you wins in games. It's like you can go for compositions that work well together and you see and but sometimes you're not necessarily the most confident on these champions that you're playing and you see this in all levels of play. You even see it in the pro scene where some players refuse to play certain champions because they simply don't feel comfortable to bring them out on stage. Could be the case here. It might be something that Disco Spiders have as sort of a trick up their sleeve. Like, I am so confident on this Lilia, on this Urgot. And I think on top of that, too, like I've said this about twice now already inside of the Champs League, I think the matchups are good for them as well. I think it's going to be a hard fought game number three. And I'm very excited to see how it all unfolds as we are soon to get into it. And
Waiting for
then
this, waiting for this game to start. We are gonna cut right to a break, and then right after that, we'll be hopping right onto the Rift, and we'll see you then. Keep watching.
And welcome everyone back for Summit Esports broadcast of this best of three today between Disco Spiders and Corporate Budget Cuts. The series is sitting at 1-1, and we're here for the final game to decide it all. And I'm here joined with Claire. My name is Ferris. Claire, we got ourselves what looks like, at least from the draft, a spicy game number 3 here on deck for us. What are you feeling, or how are you feeling about this game, and what's going
I
to
mean,
go down for
I'm
us?
excited. I just really like the Disco Spiders composition and what they're making happen here, which is an invade,
Gonna see an
a very
invade,
fast
yeah.
invade. Zeri burning that flash and trying to escape, but actually able to make it happen. The Disco Spiders are going to be pretty uh, probably sad about that one, not being able to
Yeah,
find that Zeri,
I
but
hate I hate when my I thought we were saying they're gonna be sad about burning both sums on the enemy
I
bot lane, but yeah, the prize of the kill was not earned, but double sums burned on a weak early game champion like the Zeri, something that can be exploited. Well, at least not as easy when your jungler is Lilia and does struggle to gank pre-6. There's not a whole lot of setup there, but maybe even in the 2 versus 2, Vayne is very mobile. They can look for something there, but definitely going to be something that the Disco Spiders are going to look to exploit here at the start of the game. Excellent usage of the invade here to kick themselves off.
yeah, the Disco Spiders going to be having a real aggressive bot lane, as you said, Zeri having none of those summoner spells, but it could be a slow early game as they don't have too much dive potential, but Vayne can make something happen. The Vayne and Braum bot lane, you never know. But let's just to see what happens, see how it plays out. And
Yeah, you have a champion like Vayne who's so quick to stick to you with that passive movement speed and those tumbles. And if there's a Braum passive sitting here on the likes of a Zeri who does not have summoner spells, it can get dangerous if they are too far up in the lane. Same thing with the Taric as well. Sunny Blue's piloting this champion, something that can't really sit from range and be effective, and so gonna have to get right up in the face of that Vayne and that Braum. Definitely will be a tough task. I also want to look at this top lane matchup. I was very excited when the Urgot got locked in because it's such an effective champion into these melee champs like Ornn and Jax and all of these champions that want to get aggressive onto you in the melee range, while Urgot is perfectly fine with that and can cause you absolute havoc, especially post 6 with access to the ultimate, which can execute you from about 25% HP. I want to see how much value they can get from this pick in this game.
yeah, just seeing that Urgot, which is not a super duper common pick, but I have seen X-Ray, or like heard that X-Ray is an Urgot, not main, but very comfortable on that pick, and seeing this skirmish here in the mid lane.
See a 2v2 here inside of the mid lane. It was Shenez and Cisco trying to get aggressive onto Pyrosis here on the Sylas, but fortunately it was Sultan who is here on the Lilia inside of the river, forcing away the flash on the Sejuani. So that's going to be away from the arsenal of the jungler here for the side of CBC for the next 5 minutes. And it looks like in the CS department, the Lilia already starting to pull ahead. Scuttle Crab was just secured for Sedge on the top side, but Lilia will counter that cross map with a Scuttle Crab of her own. And when you're playing a champion like Lilia, you focus less on ganks and more so to hit level 6 as fast as possible. You're a farming jungler. You want to get all that golden experience into your back pocket as quickly as you can. So we'll have to see how well she can pull ahead of this Sejuani, but we have to focus now on the top lane. X-Ray gonna flash away. Shenez, you have to be careful. You have no flash, my friend, but thankfully gets the first blood before the Urgot trade, so it's going to be a 100 gold advantage for the side of CBC. But nonetheless, the trade kill comes in. Urgot won't be feeling too sad about that one.
Yeah, getting that, especially since Sejuani didn't have her flash, that's going to be quite detrimental, as Lilia is just, I mean, she is on the map, and she was on the map faster than that Sejuani, so she's going to be getting a little bit more farm, a little bit more levels up, and getting closer and closer to that R that you keep mentioning, so she can gank a little bit easier, and just hopefully secure kills.
Yeah, and I do favor, at least in the kill trade, the Disco Spiders composition here, because that kill went on to the Urgot and can have used that extra gold. better in the 1v1 against the Ornn rather than the Sedge can use up against the Lilia. I mean, Sedge with that extra gold can use that extra statistic strength in the ganks and such things, but I think it's just a little bit more effective in that 1v1 as Pyrosis is getting absolutely slammed there in the 1v1 by Cisco, but flash forward here from Soulpan, flash away from Cisco, into the play goes Shenez, and the flash away there from Pyrosis. I think Soulpan has what they need to finish off this kill that is going to be the first kill of the game for that Lilia. Shenez can do nothing to help out their mid laner. Pyrosis was so low at the start of that play, but with the flash is able to evade death and get the +1 fight there for the side of the Disco Spiders. Is now Plants and Poros getting aggressive in the bot lane, but that's just going to be a little bit of poke. We have a 2-1 kill score here, 6 minutes into the game.
Yeah, looking at this map, that dragon just coming up about 50 seconds ago, and if you look at this bot lane, not too much has happened. It's, looking at the farm and what's happening with the kills, it's looking incredibly even, no real advantages being seen quite yet. We do have this Urgot invading that top side jungle.
Yeah, that's so annoying. Resetting the Gromp. It's an excellent play from X-Ray just to be a disruptor when your Lilia is already outpacing the enemy jungler like this, 39 CS to 28. Just resetting a buff like that sets back the Sedge so much in the jungle tempo. So we're going to see the Lilia hit 6 before the Sejuani, already level 5 before we see a call. The Forge God coming through, that's going to land onto X-Ray because Cisco has moved right up here from the mid lane. The Miasma going to prevent X-Ray from moving any further, and the poison's going to be enough. Oh, DB, you went way too far. But fortunately, you're full HP and not going to blunder your life away underneath the turret. An excellent roam from Cisco, but then the trade is in because that means Pyrosis is getting points there for free inside of that mid lane. As we see now, a 2v2 here in the bot side. Ignite going down, but flash forward from Proton. Plat player exhaust goes down from Plants and Poros, but that's not really going to deny a whole lot of damage. Things getting really mixy here on cross maps. Yeah.
Look at that Lilia. She is behind them right now. Could be having a pretty great gank.
Yeah, this could be good.
That does still have flash there on the Taric, so nothing will be found. But that Lilia did invade pretty far into that blue side jungle, so Sejuani already pretty far behind. I mean, not like super duper far behind, but 12 CS at 7 minutes is not entirely what you want to see. And that Lilia does have that Dark Seal, so she is getting stronger.
Lilia, when she gets going, especially post 6, can start to run over the skirmishes. I'm not sure if you've ever suffered from Fed Lilia before, but I certainly have. They run around the map with 10 trillion movement speed. They are slaughtering your team left, right, and center, and if you have a support like a Sedge, you can't really keep up with it. As now we see the ultimate from X-Ray here in the top side going to come through, but unfortunately not able to drop the HP bar of the Ornn quick enough to get the execute in. So gonna win out in the trade at least and push that Ornn down towards the turret. We can already start to see the Urgot really start to win out in these 1v1s. It is 2 deaths, but still holding nicely in the top lane.
So that Urgot is just being such a pain for this Ornn. Just trying to get some poke damage, especially with that range that the Urgot has. It's not much range, but it's still enough to be pretty obnoxious. Looking again at this bot lane, it's just so even. It's kind of like a mirror on the stats if you look at it. It is just so close, but those other lanes are, I mean, this game overall is insanely close. No dragon has gone down yet, and that Rift Herald has gone up in this past minute, but I don't know if we'll see anything. Looking at some fights, they kind of look like they wanted to fight up there in that topside jungle, but deciding to not want to do that. This Sejuani is just pretty, not like weak, but compared to the Lilia and how much damage she can output, it is not super duper strong.
Yeah, so forcing away their opponents from that Rift Herald are the Disco Spiders. And with the strength of that Lilia and also the Sylas who had the first roam there, able to force away their opponents and secure that objective for themselves. As now we see a 1v1 in the top side. Call of the Forge God going to come through. It's an early flash from X-Ray. The Call of the Forge God does land. DV trying to land in that last bit of damage. X-Ray is out of mana. Just get out of there, buddy, and let your Lilia finish off the kill. No! Gonna be a 1-for-1, I believe. No flash on this Ornn. There's no chance of escaping from this quick little pony here. Or I don't even know what to call it. It's half human, half pony, but nonetheless, cross map. Pyrosis gets active in the bot side, and they find the first kill here of the bot area of the map. The Taric will drop, and Sylas will get that kill credit. So 2-for-1 in the entire map play here for the side of Disco Spiders.
Fills up 3-for-4, still pretty close, but Lilia being able to get that Rift Herald is going to be super impactful on whichever lane that she chooses to use it. It could be a mid lane, seeing if they want to try and get that Drake, but just create some mid pressure, then go down, grab that Drake. Could be a pretty smart play, or really, you never know what could happen. This bot side looking at some action. That Vayne and that Braum both getting 1 assist onto that Taric, so looks like they might up and start this dragon. We do have 5 people here, so it does seem to be a pretty good idea.
Yeah, there's really, I mean, they moved X-Ray down on this Urgot to secure this and has the Unleashed Teleport to get down to the top lane without losing a whole lot. We see a Petrifying Gaze from Cisco down onto Pyrosis, who is threatening that 1v1 play there. And this was a great roam from the Urgot. So you have a wave that's stacking up towards you, so that gives you time while the wave is slow pushing for you to go help your team down at the Drake. Ornn's not there to contest, so it's 5 versus 4. You're already relatively ahead with your jungler. There's no contest needed. You secure the Drake, get right back up to the top side, collect all that farm. Nice movement around the map. Great macro from the Disco Spiders to collect that first neutral objective, or that first dragon at the very least, of the game for themselves.
Yeah, this is just how the Disco Spiders are moving around the map is pretty smart, especially with that Lilia just being able to outpace that Sejuani and beating them to objectives and beating them into like ganking lanes is just so impactful. And like, I don't think CBC has really figured out what they want to do against that, since she can be everywhere at once, but Sejuani is just a little bit slower and not quite maxed out.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's all about tempo, right? And now almost down 20 CS is this Sejuani, and Lilia is so quick around the map with this passive movement speed. Now going to get active down here in the bot side, probably going to drop this Rift Herald. They could do this to get some gold into their Vayne's back pocket, but would actually share it amongst the 3 other members. But you're going to use this time to push in the wave. Yes, the Rift Herald is actually going to go down. They could potentially threaten a dive. I mean, that wouldn't be very wise into a Taric who can just press R. So I think they're just going to use this to get some gold into their laners' pockets. It's a nice little influx, I suppose. Nothing else really other than that. Chip down some plates, and maybe if they knock down this bot lane turret, they can soon move that Vayne towards the mid lane, get Sylas into the side lane. As now we see a play here in top side. All the Forge God gets the knock up onto X-Ray. The Arctic Assault from Chinez follows it up. Permafrost is in. That's all the crowd control that's needed with no flash available. X-Ray has no way out.
Yeah, X-Ray being all 4 of the Disco Spiders' deaths is not what you want to see, but really X-Ray has just been getting pummeled by like their mid, the Cassiopeia, and just...
Yeah, we got a flash lightning crash here from Proton. Plat player, the Condemn is in, and now here comes the Taric ultimate. It's going to land here, and Space Murph will drop. Unfortunately, it's to the support. The flash stun onto Soulpan, who gets knocked up by the Ornn, who is teleported into the fight. Soulpan's going to flash away, going to try and kite this one out. Does land that Q, and watch this Lilia. She's very fast and will have a very easy time kiting out this fight, continuing to apply stacks to the passive, and in goes Soulpan once again, finding the kill onto Proton. Plat player plants and Poros, trying to help out their jungler, but unfortunately overextends in the process. An excellent teleport from DV, followed by a nice heads-up play from Proton to flash lightning crash and get aggressive onto the Vayne. Net some more kills in favor of corporate budget cuts here.
Corporate budget cuts just finding the kills when they need them. They are finding insanely smart kills and like smart plays. They are using quite a bit of their summoner spells. As you can see, that Ornn did TP into that bot lane to help secure that fight. But, I mean, they have been getting these kills and getting this value across the map, so that is super duper important. Here we see this, why can't I remember his name? Oh my goodness. We see that top laner getting, we're about to see a massive power spike there. So watch out for that.
Yeah, the Glacial Prison going to land. At least it was the heist of Glacial Prison at Sim. Cisco forced to use the flash to get away from that gank. You're right, Claire. That Ornn is getting quite strong, but 300 gold bounty on VV's head. So something to look out for if you are the Disco Spiders, especially for the likes of the Vayne and the Lilia. But you have a team filled with pretty much 4 different champions, excluding the Braum, that can actually pop off if gold and resources are given to them. I mean, I think I've been slammed by all 4 of these champions in a solo queue game at least like 3 or 4 times before. So really getting that bounty onto anyone other than the Braum is going to be beneficial to you. So that's one of the plus sides of having a composition that is built around 4 champions that can really pop off. You lack a little bit of frontline, but if you can play the fights accordingly, just peel your Vayne, let Lilia run around and kite out the fights and play it slow, you can still find value here. So that'll be something to look for towards the mid to late game fights, but now heading in towards the mid game, something nice to look for.
100%. We see this Lily and the Sylas top side potentially looking to get that Rift Herald. Choosing not to, but it is still a point of interest on the map. We did see that Cloud Drake come up, so definitely might see that Sejuani try and get in there, just because this bot side does have a lot of pressure on that bot towards that turret, so definitely have a lot of like room to work with right now.
Yeah, and looks like they're going to be able to take this Cloud Drake uncontested. The cross map might come through. Soulpan is on the opposite side of the map, and now that he sees through the announcement that the Drake has been taken, probably will start up this Rift Herald. On the minimap, it looks like him and X-Ray are going to do this and successfully take it, as there really isn't any other corporate budget cuts members in the area to contest this. And the game will kind of slow down a little bit in pace for the moment. Now all neutral objectives have been taken off the map, and we have about 3 minutes until the Baron goes live, but I don't think we'll see any early Barons in this game, as both of these teams are playing more to that later stage of the game. They have Vayne, they got Zeri, Lilia, Cassiopeia, Ornaments will come through later on. I think this game, Claire, is going to go the entire distance.
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing like a 20-minute game or like 20, even 25-minute game. I definitely think 30 plus for sure, as both these teams just want to scale up, want to try and get as strong as they can before they get into any fights. Just looking at this top lane, this poke damage coming through, but what a great permafrost there.
Yeah, the Glacial Prison just hit through the flash, so not really any counterplay that X-Ray can try and use after that happens. And a 5th death for this guy. Yeah, so the only, or all 5 deaths here for the side of, or actually, sorry, not all 5 deaths. I was looking at the wrong thing, but can't be talking about that now because we got to play in the bot side. Terracult going to come down and make these players invulnerable, but excellent kiting here from the squad of Disco Spiders. And I was wondering why they away from that, and that's because the teleport from Cisco came through, so no kills going to go over to either of these teams in this bot lane play, but summoner spells and key abilities like the Taric Ultimate going to be committed here in this play.
Yeah, just like you can probably hear those comms coming from the side of the CBC saying that, like, telling that Cassiopeia that is a great time to TP, seeing if they can get a pick, but couldn't quite find one, which is okay. It's gonna be whatever, you know, it happens. You can't always get the pick that you're looking for, but this Sylas deciding to take up this top lane position against this Ornn, as top and mid decide to switch lanes. Looks like...
Yeah. Oh, we see a flash forward here. The Condemn pushes away Proton Plat player away from Space Murph, who's going to be running away with blinking HP bar. That's going to be outer turret dropping now in the bot lane. No, corporate budget cuts grabbing that turret for themselves. So that will be turret number 2 for them inside of this game.
Deciding to swap turrets here. Disco Spiders did use that Rift Herald for that top, that mid lane turret, my apologies. But right now, it just seems that they're just slowing the game down, trying to get some value, some vision, maybe some wards deep into some jungle, get some farm, you know, not do anything too crazy. I don't think we're looking at any picks right now. It does seem that most people's ults are up. As you can see, there's one ult in here now.
Well, the Forge God, it knocks up Cisco, and Ingos plants and pulls as well. The CC is there, and the pullback is in. The Urgot gets the execute when they trade his life as well. Look at Proton Plat Player sitting nicely inside of this backline, completely untouched. This is going to be 2 for 1 as Soulpan goes in with the flash, and that's going to be a 3-man stun. Can they find the kill onto this area? Yes, they can. Space Smurf gets credit for that, and now I think this fight is going to be all for the Disco Spiders as they have the chase. Look at this Vayne going absolutely ballistic. Pyrosis forcing the flash from DV4, but they're going to continue to go forward, but you've gone too far. You get the 1 kill onto the Sejuani, but the Vayne will drop DV4 on a rampage. What a chaotic fight here inside of the mid lane. Lots of good plays going down for both of these teams. We might not be done yet here, as now the Lily going to be caught up here. The Ignite going down. DV4 is popping off the Searing Charge, finds the knock-up, and Sunny Blues is there with the support, but the Ignite actually I think is going to drop that Ornn, as we're not done yet. It simply never ends. Pyrosis looking for the 1v1 against the support mid versus Sup, and now Cisco off the respawn with the Miasma and the poison, commits the flash but doesn't get the kill. There's so much to unpack here, Claire.
Just so much. I think that was a 4 for 4. I think it was completely even. It didn't seem that the Disco Spiders were going to go in too far, but we still have this fight here.
See, Petrifying Gaze slows down Cisco. The Everfrost root lands, but now the Miasma prevents the Sylas from pursuing any further. Finds the maximum range. Abduct onto the Cassiopeia. And Cisco making critical mistakes, throwing their life away twice now. And this is bad right before the second Drake spawns. I mean, actually, there's still quite a little bit of time before that gets down onto the map. So Cisco will probably be able to respawn and teleport back in time. Now 20 seconds left on that objective. As, yeah, things getting so aggressive around this mid lane. It's like a volcano has erupted and the tension has broken.
Yeah, just so much happening on the side of
Goodness.
Make another fight happening right outside the Baron Pit.
Yeah, we see the fight break out again, and that's the Taric ult coming down. This time around, it's Corporate Budget Cuts who have the advantage. Space Smurf trying to run away from the Zeri, who's completely untouched from the backline. It's a double kill for the Sedge. Unfortunately, the AD carry of CBC is not able to pick up these kills. That might hurt them later on in this game, but right now they have priority over this Infernal Drake, and I thought this would go over to Disco Spiders. We have a teleport coming through from Cisco, who's going to commit this to secure the objective. They want it. Looks like they're going to get it. Maybe now, Claire, we get a breather from all the action.
Just so much happening right outside this Dragon Pit, and just a lot of kills going down with no value really gotten from the Disco Spiders from those kills that they did pick up there, but that should not be looked at as quite like a, you know, they just didn't quite get the value from them. But what we have seen in these past two team fights is just how strong those Cassiopeia and that Zeri both are. They just both deal an immense amount of damage, and I don't think the Disco Spiders can really deal with that too much. They don't really have super tanky characters besides, of course, that Braum. That Urgot is a bit tanky, but can still easily get shred through by that Zeri with that IE and that Cassiopeia that does poison damage.
Yeah, and I want to point out the itemization that Zeri has made. Infinity Edge in this game is so much better than Navori Quick Waves. The reason being is there's no major frontline champion for the side of Disco Spiders, so you don't necessarily need all those abilities to be used quicker. You just need more upfront damage. And now with the Infinity Edge in your pocket, plus the ornament upgrade, I mean, we talked about this, Claire. You were mentioning it earlier. Cass and the Zeri are doing boatloads of damage, and I think part of that reason is because of a smart itemization there from Proton Plat Player on the Zeri. The Infinity Edge is an excellent choice in this game, and it's what's bringing a lot of success here for them inside of this game, compared to right now Space Smurf on this Vayne, who's still yet to finish off that Mythic, soon to do so, which looks like it's going to be the Trinity Force that will be in for this Vayne.
This Vayne really trying to get activated is a bit further behind than that Zeri with the amount of gold that they have, but still definitely not out of it. This game is very close and could go either way, as we do see this Baron up, so that is an objective that both teams are going to want to fight for. I don't think we'll see anyone go for it quite yet. They'll probably be looking for a pick, or both teams will be looking for a pick if they even go in a 10 set this Baron, but I don't quite know if that will happen quite yet.
Yeah, probably won't just be a Baron Forces. We're seeing really aggressive trading here down in this bot side. I think this is the smart choice. Typically, you want to Sylas up against the likes of an Ornn, who you're better suited against, but that Ornn is so strong, doing so very well against the Sylas in the 1v1, as Plants and Poros caught out there inside of the topside jungle there for Disco Spiders, forced to use the Glacial Fissure and the Flash to escape. So these are key abilities from this Braum that are going to be down for the next potential fight that will happen around this Baron, which is being prioritized here for both of these squads. Pyrosis getting aggressive onto DV4. Now with Conqueror pop, Everfrost root lands, the Ignite ticking down onto this Ornn, who does not have a bounty on their head, but this would be an excellent point, an excellent pick for them. But now the Baron has been started down to about 4,000 HP. This is corporate budget cuts going in. The Smite goes down for Soulpan, but an excellent Petrifying Gaze might just seal the deal in the fight. For the side of corporate budget cuts, the steal is in, but the fight is won here from CBC. An excellent call of the Forge God. Space Mark canceling the Searing Charge with the Condemn. Cleanse away from the stun, but I don't think the Kite will be enough to get away, doing their very best, but DV will definitely chase down this kill all the way to the end, unless they eventually give up Searing Charge to try and close the gap. But Space Murph, it's so difficult to catch this Vayne, but I mean, the Smite went down, the XP and gold go in favor of Disco Spiders, but the fight win goes to CBC.
Disco Spiders, I think the only two that were able to keep that Baron buff was Space Murph and Pyrosis, which is still incredibly important as those two still have it, but the 3 going down is just a little bit unfortunate, but an insane play from Soulpan to be able to flash that wall and then smite the Baron just in time to be able to capture it for their team. We do see that this the next objective going up was going to be this Infernal Drake. Not quite on full point yet for either team, but still incredibly important for both teams to capture.
Yeah, and I think the better play for Disco Spiders would have been to just get Soulpan to flash in, go for the steal, and then just get out. There's no need to fight. Your Lilia's way out of position. She's going to die immediately, then you're going to lose the fight. So just get everyone out of there, sacrifice your Lilia. That would have been a very worth trade. Baron for your jungler, 100%, always going to be worth it, but losing the majority of your members there in the fight and then also losing your tier 2 inside of the mid lane, that kind of sucks. Is could potentially see a 1v1 here in the top lane. X-Ray and Cisco going to go at it. If X-Ray does find that yes, this ability, whatever it is, gets the ultimate down. Cisco trying to flash away, X-Ray trying to do the damage to finish off that kill, but the Call of the Forge God here from DV, who's here to help out his mid laner. They finish off that kill, or actually, maybe they don't. The auto attack was not in just yet, but the Searing Charge will finish that one off. But in the meantime, with the commitment to the top side from CBC, it's Disco Spiders that start up this Drake. I think they're going to be able to secure that for themselves. Yes, they will. 2-2 is now the Drake score inside of this game.
Yeah, as you can see here, this Sylas and that Urgot. I did not realize that Urgot still had that dragon buff, but having those super minions or those Baron buffed minions with you on that side lane creates such a big problem for the team having to deal with it, since they're just so tanky and deal so much damage to structures. So being able to split with those is just so nice. And that Sylas is loves to split push, so you might see that in that top lane and whichever lane they go to. It does seem that
it could get collapsed on here soon.
Collapsed on.
Yeah, Pyrosis, if you get out of this one alive, I don't know. I'll shave my head bald or something. So Pyrosis going to pop the Lightning Crash that was heisted away, the flash away from the CC here, but going to be locked up by the Glacial Prison, and in comes Proton, flat player as well. The Cassiopeia secures that kill, getting too aggressive inside of the side lane, not checking where the opposing team was on the map, and punished for it is Pyrosis.
We do see that the score is 18-10 with the kills favoring the CBC, but it is still a pretty close game. It is about like 2k gold lead for the CBC, but anything can happen. I think both fights are still very winnable for both teams depending on how they play in the team fight. I mean, that Sylas is super strong, unfortunately is dead right now, so not going to be too useful while they're respawning, but once they come back up, they do a lot of damage, and I don't think we've seen the Disco Spiders quite yet have a 5v5 team fight. I could be mistaken, but I cannot recall one.
At least not one that goes absolutely in their favor. But we're going to get a few of those, and right on cue is the call of the Forge God now. Onto X-Ray goes the entirety of the corporate budget cut squad. Terracult now going to be popped, and that's the key for them to push forward in this fight because they cannot take any damage. Shenez doing a great job of tanking up at the front line as well as DB4. And look at this Zeri pumping out so much damage in this back line. In tandem with the Cassiopeia, that's going to be the tier 2 in the top lane secured for themselves. And as well, they get the kill down onto X-Ray, who's been struggling to tank up for their squad here in this game. The Radiant Virtue complete, the Bramble Vest too, but it's not quite enough to stop the likes of the Zeri and the Cassiopeia.
We haven't quite seen this Vayne get activated quite as much as that Zeri. That Zeri, like every fight that I've seen her in, there's just been so much damage, so much consistent damage coming from them, but the Vayne, I can't say I've seen as much. So hopefully we do see this happen. That Zeri is an item ahead. About like half an item, I think. So it's a bit stronger, but hopefully we can see this Vayne get activated in these team fights. Hopefully it can get set up by the Urgot and the Braum and the Lilia, but who really knows?
That's the exact problem is, like you said, she needs to get set up by the Urgot, the Lilia, and the Braum, but those champions don't set up very well. Braum is a peel-oriented champion. Maybe a nice Glacial Fissure can get things going. We'll talk about this in a second here as DV is now in trouble. The slow lance, Sultan has that Rylai's Crystal Scepter to keep this Corn in place, but the Call of the Forge God plus the teleport may just turn the tide here for the corporate budget cuts top laner. In goes Cisco now into the fight. The sleep going to go down onto the Cassiopeia, and now we have a fight in the mid lane as well. This is going to be the fight that could potentially end the game, but look at Spaceberg inside of the back line. This could be the setup that you were talking about here, Claire. And now the kill goes over to Sultan. It's a 1-for-1 on this bot side. The mid lane fight looks like has fizzled out into a stalemate. The Zeri trying to get back to help out this Orin Sultan slowly but surely whittling through this orb. But now that Proton Plat players made their way through, they might be able to find the kill onto the Lilia, but she's just too fast. And now the kill, the shutdown onto the Orin from the bait. Pyrosis on the flank finishes off the Zeri. This is the fight that you wanted, Claire, for this Disco Spiders squad, and you have gotten it.
Yeah, seeing that fight, like two fights breaking out at the same time, one in mid and we saw one in the bot lane there, and just like that Lilia being able to kite so much damage and survive was super duper crucial, and we might just see them go straight.
They can just end. I think they can end. I don't think there's anything that they can really do. Cisco is going to have to go absolutely ballistic here. 6 seconds on the respawn. Taric popping the ultimate, but you're only keeping yourself alive, my friend. You don't have the damage to stop this. This is the wildest ending ever out of nowhere. This is so anticlimactic. It looked like certainly the way things were going, this was going to be a CBC win, but the throw is here. Oh, that's such a bad situation for them. Corporate budget cuts end up losing this game off of one unfortunate fight. It was going so well, Claire, until it wasn't.
I mean, that's League for you. I mean, usually most of the time the games are pretty snowballed and kind of decided at 15 minutes or so. But this game just kept going back and forth and back and forth, and the Disco Spiders played their cards right and managed to find the perfect time to end that game.
Yeah, they took a gamble on that final fight and they got the maximum payout. They basically won the lottery with it. But for us here at Summit Esports, that is going to do it for today's stream. If you're watching, I hope you very much enjoyed it. They were some exciting games. I certainly enjoyed it. My name is Ferris. That was Claire. We'll see you in the next one. Have a wonderful night.